Welcome to another episode of Geeks Who Like Sports, episode 87. Actually, as always, I am Ray Carcel in, it's okay, Los Angeles, California. And as always, I'm my best friend in the entire world over in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Lee Elias. Lee, how you doing today?
Ray, I'm so excited for this episode. The geek gods have gifted us with so much geekdom today that we have to time our geek segments to stay on track so that we can even have a sports segment, because we could probably talk, I'm not kidding, maybe 6-7 hours on just some of this stuff, the Star Wars stuff alone. But we're going to time it. It's going to be on us today to stay within the time constraints. I have a timer on my phone. We are literally going to time our segments today. Also want to make note, episode 87, not my favorite number in hockey, but it has all of my respect. Because he's so good.
That's a fair assessment.
He's
Yeah,
so
I hate 87 and his terrible mustache.
He's so good.
But
what mustache? You mean the thing on his face?
Well,
anyway,
yeah. Well,
listen, there's so much geek news today. I wore my Deadpool hoodie because he's not going to be mentioned in the show at all. Like, this is how big of a geek day it is. And there's no Deadpool.
Yeah.
He had to be represented somehow because he's disqualified from everything. But I am pumped for this entire episode because it is Star Wars season again, my friend. And again, we have been gifted. The gods at Disney have gifted us with unlimited geek news today. Like last week, it was Warner Brothers and DC and HBO were like, well, we're going to put our movies on. What do you got for that? So I like to say it like this. DC brought a sword, like the Master Sword, and Disney was like, here's the Death Star. We're going to fire the Death Star or Star Killer Base or whichever you choose.
I was going to say, they're firing everything.
They're firing everything, yeah.
This is the Last Jedi with... This is the Last Jedi with Kylo Ren being like, more. Yeah, so
you come to save my
no,
soul.
a lot. This
No.
This is a big episode, folks. We do have a shorter, truncated sports section. Obviously, we're going to talk football, a little NBA preseason, a little bit of baseball, but mostly geek stuff.
Yes.
We've got some big video game news. We had the Game Awards last week, which I am not happy about. What else is new?
This episode should be called Geeks Who Like Sports.
Yeah, it's definitely favoring the geek side, like Lee said. It is geek heavy. But we are going to get things kicked off like we always do. As we're recording this, we're a couple days away. But as you're listening to this, if you are our earlier adopters, we are hours away from the season finale of Mandalorian. Mandalorian episode 15 or chapter 15 is officially released, called The Believer.
Wait, should I start the clock? Should I start the clock right now?
Start the clock.
Please I got to tell everybody. So we have this is the challenge on us, Ray, and all the geeks out there. Again, this is gonna be hard for us. We have 15 minutes to review The Mandalorian starting now.
Yeah, so a lot going on with The Believer, Chapter 15. Of course, alluded to as last week that the mission was to get Bill Burr's character, Miggs Mayfield, out of the prison camp that he was in, and basically to help them infiltrate an Imperial base to find where Moff Gideon's light cruiser is. And this episode had everything. But I'm going to start off right off the bat with saying Bill Burr gave an amazing performance. He was the heart and soul of this episode. He carried it. I did not know he had that much depth to him, but absolutely phenomenal job. I hope that Mayfield makes more appearances over the course of either The Mandalorian or the rest of the Star Wars expanded universe that we're going to get into later.
Mayfield, not Mayfield. Baker Mayfield's a football player. Mayfeld.
It's Mayfeld.
I'm teasing you.
Did I say Mayfield?
Everybody's been doing that. No, it's Mayfeld. And
right.
then, obviously Baker Mayfield is a football player. But it's Mayfeld.
We'll talk about him later. Yeah. Did I say Mayfield? I'm sorry if I said
okay.
Mayfield.
People have been doing it all week.
Yeah.
In fact, everyone's autocorrect is doing it. But it's Mayfeld. I'm going to name my next pet Mayfeld. I've decided, although nobody wants to do that but me. But yes, Miggs Mayfield.
Yeah, Miggs Mayfield. He did an amazing job, and we saw such range in this character. Not just him, but every character, a lot of the characters, but especially Mando as well, had a great arc this episode. You really are starting to see some things pay off. I guess the big thing is that they are a well-oiled machine. Cara Dune, Boba Fett, Mando, and
Fennec Shand. Awesome.
And Fennec Shand, thank you. Yeah, and Mayfeld, yes. Although, again, Mayfeld only, I guess, again, by the way, folks, spoiler alerts, lots of spoiler alerts, obviously.
It's shame on you if you haven't seen it.
Seriously, you guys know what you're getting into with us. You know. Mayfeld, they let him go at the end of the episode, so he's not going to be part of the band that assaults Moff Gideon's light cruiser at the
not
in
this
next week's
season.
episode. But yeah, exactly. I mean, not to say he can't come back, or again, we'll get into it later. He can make other appearances on other shows. But yeah, they had to basically go undercover as stormtroopers to get into an Imperial base, and Lee, there's just so much here. I don't know where to start, but I guess let's start with Mando.
Sure.
Bending and also Mayfeld's speech to him about you have a lot of really strong ideals until things get.
Do you want me to start there?
Basically,
Do you want me to start there?
Yes, let's start there.
So,
let's start there.
As Ray's alluding to, Mayfeld gives this really tremendous speech in the Juggernaut that is all about the biggest problem in Star Wars. Okay, so I just want to go back a little bit. I have said this multiple times. This has been my favorite episode of The Mandalorian. Not everybody agrees with me on that. I think this was the best episode they've produced for a reason that Ray said it had a little bit of everything. But I think there's a few scenes, but this conversation between Mayfeld and the Mandalorian, well, it's really just a conversation between Mayfeld and no one because Mandalorian doesn't say anything. It is solving. I think everyone missed this, Ray. I really do. I'm going to take almost a holier than thou approach to this. I think everybody missed this. That conversation is solving one of the biggest problems that Star Wars has. And it's not that Baby Yoda ate eggs. Okay?
Grogu. His name's Grogu.
You're right. And you have every right to throw that at me because I did that to you last week. The biggest problem that Star Wars has always had is that it's always black and white, good and evil. And that's why sometimes the movies run into trouble. There's never been gray area. Okay? Now, to be fair, in The Last Jedi, they tried to add in some of that gray area. You'll remember with the character that Benicio del Toro played, when he kind of alluded to, like, hey, man, the arms dealers don't care. They're making weapons for both sides. Unfortunately, that entire storyline fell flat on its face. Nobody talked about it, right? So Mayfeld's talking to Mando about basically like, look, everyone bends the rules when they need to bend the rules. You know, the Empire, the New Republic, it doesn't matter, right? People just want to live their lives and be left alone. And that's the
well, that's just it. The people on the ground, it doesn't matter. They're being ruled either way. It doesn't matter by who.
The great point that he made was that, like, if you're from Mandalore or you're from oh my goodness, Alderaan, that was close. Whether you're from Mandalore or Alderaan, you know, you want to live a certain way. He goes, and guess what? None of those planets are here anymore, right? Keeping in mind that Mandalore was wiped out by the kind of New Republic, the Old Republic Empire before it was really the Empire. Then it got wiped out. Right. And then Alderaan was wiped out by, obviously, the Empire. The point he's making is that these wars, these galactic civil wars, are really paying, the people are paying the price. And it opens up this entire gray area in Star Wars that we never get to explore that I think is really, again, an important part of the Star Wars world. That's just why the comic books are better, the cartoons are better, because they always deal with the gray area, right? Not just the good versus the bad, the Jedi and the Sith, the black and the white. In fact, when you look at The Rise of Skywalker, I mean, that's what that was good versus evil, right? I'm the Sith. Well, I'm the Jedi. Like, great, right? Didn't see that coming. Like, so that's my point. And then, obviously, that leads into Mando, into Din challenging his own beliefs. I'll let you pick up there. But and that's another massive character development. Again, subtly, but very good. And like, let's talk about that. We are at 5 minutes, 45 seconds. We have plenty of time. We're doing fine. Yeah. Okay?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's
do you agree with me, first of all?
Do
you agree with what I'm saying about the
I completely agree. Yeah. No, it's true. And I think that possibly because Benicio del Toro's character was just really weird and uncharismatic as compared to Bill Burr, it resonated more. Bill Burr, a Bostonian, just being like, hey, look, you got all these ideals. Suddenly, you got to save this kid. Right. There goes your Mandalorian armor.
What are you going to take off your little Mando helmet? Is that what you're going to do? You get a fire at the Rhydonium? I think I could do if I practice, I think I could do Bill Burr pretty well. I'm a big Bill Burr fan.
I think if you practice,
but
we both are.
And I think Mando helmet on.
But I mean, again, the big thing is that for them to get into the Imperial base, they hijack a Imperial Juggernaut, which is a transport tank.
It's pretty awesome transport.
It's pretty good, and what happens is that the crew is like, we can't leave Mayfeld by himself,
right?
But then they're also like, we need somebody with that the Empire's face the scanners won't recognize. Obviously, Cara Dune as a former New Republic, rebel soldier.
Yes.
Fennec Shand is on the run from the Empire. She's a defector. Boba Fett, hysterical line, basically being like, "Yeah, I think they might recognize me. Let's just say they'll know my face." Which, of course, references back to, obviously, that his dad was the basis for all the clone troopers.
The 1 million clone troopers that looked exactly like him.
Yeah, plus, obviously, Boba also worked with the Empire, so
Right.
I'm sure they are, in both those cases, they are very familiar with him. So that leaves
with his face.
Mando.
With his face. Sorry, you do bring up a good point, is we don't know how much Boba Fett revealed his face to anyone during his tenure post Attack of the Clones. So it's possible no one knows that he looks like a clone. But with that said, yes, the Imperial hard drives are going to probably recognize a clone face.
Yeah, like a million different names would pop up that recognizes him. So there could be some errors there. So what ends up happening is Din is like, I'll do it. And so they do this thing. They hijack the Juggernaut. They knock out 2 stormtroopers. They take their armor, which they're not traditional stormtroopers. They're gray tank driver armor, but they're still called stormtroopers.
Yeah, they're heavy stormtroopers. That's what we call.
Right, exactly. And we also see shore troopers, stormtrooper, coastal stormtroopers here, which were first introduced in Rogue One, which is also really cool. But Din takes the armor, goes behind a little alcove, and basically gives his armor to Cara Dune to take care of, and he dresses as a stormtrooper. So nobody sees his face, but it's still a big deal for a Mandalorian to relinquish his armor in such a way.
That's huge.
Yeah, so that's where Bill Burr's speech kind of comes from, especially as they're driving through this rural forest planet, right? This tropical planet. The next big thing is then, of course, there's a big thing. Pirates come. They're trying to fight. Yeah. They fight him off. Mando shows that he is just as capable, just as capable as Boba in terms of hand-to-hand combat, because he doesn't have his Beskar armor to rely on now. He has a single blaster, which almost immediately runs out of ammo, and he basically has to, or charge, I should say, and he basically has to do hand-to-hand combat. But at the end, where it just looks like they're about to run out of, where he's going to get overwhelmed, this was really interesting, is that, again, showing that depending on what side you're on, the good guys and the bad guys are different. 2 TIE fighters come screaming out of nowhere and kill and destroy the pirates. Yeah, exactly. and the only transport to get away from the pirates is Mando and Mayfeld.
And you're saying it right. It's a very interesting moment because at home you're uncomfortably cheering that these TIE fighters have just saved these people, and then all of the stormtroopers are saluting them as they come in. It's a weird moment. It's a weird moment to watch, and that's another reason why I love this episode. Is that they're talking about being conflicted, and they're making you conflicted at home. And if you weren't conflicted during that scene, I don't know what to tell you. Like it was awkward for me. Yes, I know it's not real, but yes, I know.
In that moment, they're heroes of the Empire, and it's crazy. So the next big thing that happens, Lee, time check.
You have 4 minutes and 40 seconds.
Cool. Okay. Basically, somebody that Mayfeld served with in the Empire, Valen Hess, is in this base. So Mayfeld is terrified of going to use the terminal that he was going to use because he doesn't want to be fingered. He doesn't want to be identified because people would know something is up. So Mando removes his helmet to go and take the scanner because, again, he's the only person that can at this point. And again, it shows that all of these people see his face. All of these stormtroopers, probably a captain or something, Valen Hess sees his face as he gets the information he needs. He does find Moff Gideon's ship, but here it is, the big moment where not only has he bent the rule, he has straight up broken the rule at this point.
There is some debate over this, and this is what I said. I mean, I think he's broken his own rule, but the idea was that he has this life debt to Grogu, not Baby Yoda. Mm-hmm. So I think it supersedes the laws with the helmet, but it's still it's a major scene that he loves this child enough that he's willing to completely break everything. And then Valen Hess, by the way, who also famously played the Night King in Game of Thrones. And Ray, I'm gonna bring this up. You're gonna be upset that you didn't remember this, and I'm not saying that to make fun of you here. The actor who played Valen Hess also played Chill in Batman Begins. All right, right.
I did not realize
right, but now
that.
And again, I'm not calling you out with this, but I realized as soon as I tell you, you'd be like, oh, that's right. Right.
Wow,
so is it Joe Chill?
yeah.
Joe Chill, I think is his name.
Joe Chill.
Right.
Yeah.
So he played.
Wow.
Right. See,
I mean, he hasn't aged well in 15.
No, he always is gonna look like that. Anyway, so just getting back, I wanted to say that. Yeah, I was saying this on our live feed when we were watching it. That it was a major moment for me.
Streamlounge.io.
Yeah, as a father, I mean, I get it. Okay, we have about 2 minutes and 30 seconds to finish this up. So I'll just say, if I may forward it, it's a powerful scene. Bill Burr Mayfeld comes in to save the day after obviously Din has no idea how to do Imperial protocol.
Right, Hess
right.
calls him out, and Din gets caught.
Right, and they have this great sit down with Hess where they talk about Operation Cinder, which is the last order of the Emperor should he die, which is basically to eradicate most of the Empire. It's very unclear in a lot of ways. It's in a lot of storylines, though. It was in Battlefront 2.
It's been touched upon in video games
it was
and stuff.
Yeah, it was in the comic books. The idea is that Mayfeld lost almost his entire squadron, like 5,000 to 10,000 troops, and he's sitting in front of this mass murderer. And this is the scene Ray was talking about. The acting of Bill Burr was so deep here. No dialogue. You could just see the pain in his face. And he ends up
the PTSD.
Yeah, it's very, very reminiscent of Django Unchained when the dentist kills Leonardo DiCaprio, but like he just can't help himself and he kills Valen Hess, and then the two of them go on to melee the entire Imperial fleet that's there.
And shoot their way out, basically.
I remember the anticipation that, man, I hope they don't kill Mayfeld. They didn't kill him. And then Mayfeld uses his sharpshooter abilities to blow up the entire base, thus killing anyone who saw Din with his helmet off.
Except for him.
Yeah. And then Boba, again, we got a minute 15. Boba drops a sonic charge, which was the greatest thing ever.
A seismic charge, yes.
Which was right out of Attack for the Clones, and we saw the damage it could do to the TIE fighters before they fly away.
Yeah.
And they let Mayfield escape. And then Din, this is the best part of the episode. The episode ends on Din leaving Moff Gideon the exact same message that he had received in Chapter 7, right? When Gideon's saying, "You have no idea what he means to me." It was so well directed, so well written, so well acted. I believe this to be the best episode of The Mandalorian yet, although I know there are people that disagree with me. 45 seconds, Ray. I'll let you close it out.
I mean, I'm saying it's top 3. I mean, the more I sit on it, the more I'm leaning towards agreeing with you.
Yeah, Chapter 9 is the only one that's close in my mind. Just to be.
I mean, and I've said to me also, I really enjoyed Chapter 8 as well with IG-11 sacrifice.
It's top 3,
and obviously the
sure.
Darksaber and all that.
Right.
And all I want to bring up is real quick is that there's a lot of interesting other things. We're still trying to figure out Boba's motivation for this besides the debt that he made to him to get his armor back. Somebody put out that in one of the expanded universe comics that Boba gets the Darksaber at one point.
Right.
Could Boba know that the Darksaber is also out there, and that could be, I'm going to get my armor, and then I'm going to get the Darksaber? Because we now know that, or at least believe that Jango was a foundling. Do you think there's any possibility of that?
I'm going to give us a minute over overtime because I feel like it. Listen, there's a lot of cloudiness over Boba. Personally, just want him to tag along and be a great ally to Din, but I have every reason to believe he will double cross Din. I have every reason to believe that he is still faithful to the Empire. We just don't know. And again, I hope it doesn't go that way, but it may. And you said it again. There's going to be a battle for that Darksaber. All right, they are alluding that there are multiple sections of Mandalorians out there. For those of you who don't know, whoever holds the Darksaber rules Mandalore, right? So, I think that's going to be a big part of Season 3, is that Darksaber is going to get found, and there's going to be a battle against Civil War.
Whoever has it has to unify.
Right, so Boba Fett could lead Mandalore. Din could lead Mandalore.
Or, I was going to say, Din could get
There's a lot of, Bo-Katan. There's a lot of things that could happen. Or maybe Ahsoka gets it. Who knows? Who knows who gets that sword, if they get it at all. One more episode left in this season. Chapter 16, we are all waiting in eager anticipation of what is surely going to be another great episode. This season has been phenomenal so far. We will discuss the season finale of The Mandalorian next week on Geeks Who Like Sports.
Yes. So, and that's actually a great lead. You mentioned Ahsoka. Look, folks, Disney had a call. Obviously, there's no D23 this year because of conventions and whatnot. But also, by the way, I love the fact that they basically also counter-programmed the Game Awards and demolished them because, well, we're going to get into the Game Awards later.
Right.
But they came out.
Are we going into Star Wars now?
I was gonna say I think we go to Star Wars for.
That's fine.
Yeah, because there's a general overview, just a quick overview. We're gonna get into the details, but
when
a quick
should I start the
overview.
timer?
Give me like 15 seconds.
You tell me when to start the timer, and I will
Okay.
start the timer because this is gonna get a 30-minute section, which sounds like a long time. It's only 3 minutes per show.
Yeah, so I mean, generally, Bob Iger came out, basically, shots fired. He even kind of joked, by the way. Disney also mentioned 86.8 million Disney Plus subscribers now on Disney Plus. Yeah, at the beginning of December 2nd, as was those numbers were accurate. And Iger also mentioned, he's like, we got a lot of stuff for you guys to watch. It's not like you're going anywhere. Which is kind of true.
If you're not done watching Mandalorian reruns, we have new stuff coming.
Yeah. And yes, and they came out, shots fired, tons of Disney Pixar stuff, new stuff we knew was coming. They also announced 10 new Marvel series, 10 new Star Wars series. They came out ham-hocked. They got a new Buzz Lightyear thing starring Chris Evans. Right. What?
Yeah, listen, there was so much that came out that day. I mean, I even posted this on our Facebook page. Like Disney, I can only take so much of this. Stop. Stop.
Honestly, I haven't even been like excited or hyped. I've just kind of been overwhelmed.
There's so much of it.
In a way.
The nice part about Geeks Who Like Sports is we're gonna go over all of it right now. So if you were overwhelmed by it by home, we're gonna give you quick summations of everything that's coming, why you should be excited, and just a really quick brief introduction of it all. So with that said, I'm gonna start the clock. All right, we are going into our Star Wars segment. 10 new shows. We have 30 minutes to go over them. Starting right now, the clock is ticking. May I lead it off, sir?
Yeah,
okay.
Start it off.
Teeing off on the first hole, a show that we have all been extremely, extremely excited about, but now we have kind of the full confirmation and the biggest news. Obi Wan Kenobi, Star Wars Obi Wan Kenobi, which takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. The big news with this show is that Hayden Christensen will be reviving his role as Darth Vader and/or Anakin Skywalker, okay? We know that this show is going to obviously take place around Obi-Wan. Luke will be about 10 years old in this, if he's in it at all. Hayden Christensen coming out of whatever hiatus he was in is huge, which means we are probably going to see Darth Vader, but I believe we are also going to see Anakin Skywalker in flashbacks or potentially other ways. Mainly because if it was just going to be Vader, they could have just gotten James Earl Jones to do the voice.
Well, I was gonna say for the Vader segment, so they're gonna have James Earl Jones come back and do the voice.
I hope so. I hope so. And then it has been teased. I don't know how many people heard this, that there's going to be a rematch, lightsaber duel.
Yeah.
Somehow, between Hayden and Ewan McGregor. But who knows? Yeah. Who knows what the show's going to be about? Okay, I'm going to guess. Again, in the time that we have, I'm going to guess that Obi-Wan is somehow whisked away off-world, off Tatooine for a time being. We know that, there may be a threat that someone might find out about Luke, but we know that no one can find about Luke just because of the way the story goes. So is this Obi-Wan leaving to protect Luke? Is he trying to confront Vader? Is Anakin still alive in Vader's head? Right? Will there be flashbacks? We don't know. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, is Obi-Wan searching for other Jedi?
Right.
Like, there's
which
would be a great way to introduce other characters who could also tie back into the other shows at some point. Like,
and again, to take this even a step further, it's just how does the Force play into this show? We just don't know. I mean, will there be Force ghosts? Will Qui-Gon be there? Right? Will he communicate with Yoda? Who knows? What I'm excited about is with the writing capability that they have at Disney. And again, we said that Rogue One brought Vader back into the limelight in the correct way. I think this is going to give Hayden Christensen a real opportunity because Hayden Christensen's part in the prequels was very, very poorly written.
It's not his fault.
It was never his fault.
He's actually a decent actor.
Right. It was never his fault. So I'm interested to see what he can do with Vader in a time period like this where, no offense to George Lucas, but he's not writing about sand and, and love and, losing the will to live. Very, very excited about this show. About 10 seconds if you want to say anything else on this one.
Yeah, no, just happy Hayden Christensen's coming down off his farm in Canada to come back for this. And, this is going to be great. So, moving on now to the next show. I mean, we're going to go back and forth here. One that I'm actually curious about is Rangers of the New Republic.
Right.
Was announced. This is kind of building off another. This is one of a couple spinoffs from Mandalorian.
Right.
This is going to probably follow the X-wing pilots on the Outer Rim that we've already been introduced
and
to.
potentially Cara Dune too, and other people like her. I wouldn't be surprised if we also see from episode 9 the guy who had Boba Fett's armor. Who I can't believe I'm blanking on the name. It's embarrassing. You know, yeah, right. That guy, Cobb Vanth. Sorry, that.
Yes,
a lot of names to remember. Yeah, this show is exciting. So just to round this out, so there's 3 shows here that take place in the Mandalorian timeline, and they're very specific about this, which means, Ray, that they are making a Mandalorian cinematic universe, right?
Yes.
So they're going to make a MCU.
Yeah,
They're going to make an MCU for the Mandalorian because. Yeah, Rangers of the New Republic, again, we don't have much information about this, although that they are highly talking about, like you said, Ray, the X-Wing pilots on the Outer Rim that are trying to round people up. It's an interesting story because we don't have much, well, we don't have anything cinematically except for the Mandalorian episodes, but there's not much about this time period where the New Republic rises to power that is still canon. That's what I'll say. Yes, there's a million books.
I mean, but it seems like everything we've seen is that this is the New Republic trying to bring law and order to a typically very lawless part of the galaxy, right? Like hives of scum and villainy and whatnot.
On the Outer Rim, yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. So
it also makes sense that when the X-Wing pilot gave Cara Dune the Marshal title, we're gonna. I have a feeling we're gonna see a lot of these characters again and again and again. And I'm looking forward to that. And then that also leads us into the other show. So, so the 3 shows in the Mandalorian timeline, we can breeze over one of them. But Rangers of the New Republic, the one we can breeze over is The Mandalorian Season 3, which was one of the 10 shows announced. Right. Okay, so we knew that was coming. We'll have another episode where after next week, we'll discuss where we think that show is going. Right?
Right.
The other show in the Mandalorian timeline, this is huge. This is a really huge announcement, is Star Wars Ahsoka. All right, so they are making a show with Rosario Dawson playing Ahsoka Tano in that time. We know that she is looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn. I do believe now. We thought we might see him in The Mandalorian, which we may, but now we know that was the spinoff being created of she's going after Thrawn, potentially other Jedi. We don't know how Grogu's going to play into this. We don't know how Force Ghosts are going to play into this. One of the things I was discussing,
Ezra Bridger,
one of the things I was actually discussing with my brother was that Force Ghosts are very, very around in this time period of the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
So
after Qui-Gon cracked the code, it kind of became not commonplace, but accepted.
So it's very possible. I'll just say this: it's very possible that Force Ghosts may appear. How cool would it be? How cool would it be, Ray, if we're talking 6-7 years after Return of the Jedi, if Ahsoka met up with a Hayden Christensen, Anakin Skywalker ghost? Yeah. Imagine those conversations. I saw a great cartoon the other day. Someone drew it. That it was Luke talking to Ahsoka, which is possible, right?
Yeah. Right?
And Ahsoka was crying that your father was my master and I really loved him. And Luke's, and she said, I was devastated that he turned to the dark side. And Luke tells her he turned back at the end. And she starts crying because, she goes, he turned back. He came back. It was a very powerful card. It was a joke, but it was very powerful to me. And it brought up this great question of what would Ahsoka say to Anakin after having been Vader for 20 years?
Yeah, for what he did for the Purge, for Order 66.
I found that fascinating, and I think that could be a really cool arc. Because if Hayden Christensen's coming back, you might as well use him in all the time periods, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be cool, and suddenly that would silence everyone that was complaining when Return of the Jedi Special Edition came out with Hayden Christensen in it. Everyone was complaining like, "Oh, it shouldn't be Hayden Christensen." Well, now you can make that very much make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a lot there, and then Ahsoka's just awesome. We know that she's awesome. So Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, The Mandalorian Season 3. The only thing we don't know, Ray, is with all these shows, by the way, I shouldn't say it's just not these. We don't know how many of these are like one-off series or 3-season series. It's important to remember that like a lot of the Disney series may not be more than one series, especially, and we'll get into it with the Marvel ones in a minute. But especially with the Marvel series, I don't expect them to be more than one series.
Well, and especially even with some of these Star Wars prequels, that brings us to my next show, which is Andor, Cassian Andor, which is pre-Rogue One.
Right. That can only go for so long.
Right, exactly, right? Like, so, and very early Rebel Alliance. So, like, how many stories can you tell with him beyond the? I think they've said for sure 12 episode season. So I believe it was 12. They said, but. It might, don't quote me on that, but I believe they said 12 episodes.
I expect that to be one season, because here's the thing: it's like it's not a character. First off, the character is going to age, and it's not going to age well if they let that happen. The other thing too is I don't know how much of his story I really need. I would love his story. I would just love to see his story leading up to
I think 12 half-hour episodes will be enough.
Yeah, and if it leads to him meeting Jyn Erso, that would be cool. And obviously, there's going to be something about him getting K2SO, which is going to be great. Who is one of my favorite droids, right?
Yeah, yes, like, played by Alan Tudyk.
Yeah, I thought again, it was almost a shame that, in Rogue One that, that's his only appearance. So this is a great ability for him to come back, because K2 is a great droid, right? Oh yeah,
Alan Tudyk in general is just terrific.
Congratulations, you are being rescued.
Yeah,
I love the sarcasm of that droid.
Yeah.
Andor takes place obviously sometime before Episode 4. That's all we can say. It's before A New Hope and before Rogue One, which takes place a week before that. And it's going to follow the life of Cassian Andor and probably his rise within the rebellion. Remember, he had that great line, suddenly the rebellion is real for you, but I've been in this fight since I was 6 years old. Like, that's what I think the story is going to be, is his entire life.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if the first episode is about him as being younger.
Or definitely you'll have some flashbacks, very similar to Din in the first season of Mandalorian.
Right.
Those were just those were
can
more.
Can you imagine if they're connected somehow? That would be interesting.
Yeah. And also I can't think of his characters. I'm blanking right now, and I feel I'm ashamed. Forrest Whitaker's character. Gara.
That's close. Again, forgive us, people. There's a lot of characters to remember.
There's a lot. Yeah. Is it like Zav Guerrera or
Guerrera? Saul Guerrera.
Saul Guerrera. That's what it is.
We figured it out. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a short word.
Yeah.
And then a longer.
Just listen. All you listening at home that knew his name, there's a name you blank on once in a while. We get to it. That's the point. We don't use the internet. It's Saul Guerrera. We use the Lugal and the Rugal, and we found it.
Yes. and at some point, he gonna make an appearance?
Yeah.
For Cassian. Yeah. So I think that would be really interesting.
And lose your breath for no reason.
But yeah, no, I think that there is definitely room in that show to bring in some other characters and obviously establish those early rebel roots. Also, another show that was announced. There's a lot of there's a lot to get through
right now.
Yeah.
We're let's do a time check. We're halfway through, and we have 18 minutes, so we're doing good.
So we're actually a little ahead of schedule. Great. Some that I'm I don't want to say less excited for, but
don't say that.
I'm curious to see what they do with it. A Droid Story.
Right. So A Droid Story is going to follow R2-D2 and C-3PO. And I believe it's going to be mini stories. I don't believe these are going to be full 30-minute, 45-minute episodes.
Right.
I am all about that. To be super fair, these are two major Star Wars characters that have never had their own show. All right, and they've been together a long time. There's a lot you could tell.
Didn't they have a Droids cartoon?
Kind of.
Way back when.
Yeah, but it doesn't count. Like, they've never had their own show. This could be something fun. Right. Like R2 and I'd say R2 more than C-3PO. The only problem I had with the last three movies was they got glossed over because they wanted BB-8 to have the spotlight, which was fine, but. Like, I didn't like the way they treated R2. They were side characters in that. I'm like, these are major.
Yeah, R2 is the original BB-8.
Right. These are major characters in the Star Wars universe. So, and again, I love BB-8. Don't get me wrong. He's fun. Hello. But this is I just again. Anyway, R2-D2, C-3PO, A Droid Story. That should be fun. That also leads into Star Wars Visions, which is basically a what if style animated show. So what I know about this is that it's going to be a Japanese animated style Star Wars, which is really awesome because I'm pretty sure this spawned off of a fan-made Star Wars anime, which they used traditional Japanese anime to show Star Wars, and people loved it. So they're going to tell some stories in that way. I'm all for these variety shows because you get some real gems in there. And like you said, I think the reason, Ray, like you said, you're not maybe super high up on it. It's just because we don't know much about it. We don't know where they're going to go with it.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
But like I'm all for Star Wars Japanese animation. I'm not going to lie to you.
That for sure. I mean, that thing I mean, if they do it right, I think that it'd be fantastic. I mean, there's I've seen stuff like I've seen that done with Batman when they did Gotham Knight. They did those 6 minis, and they didn't really resonate as well with a lot of fans. So it's a bit of a risk, I think. But if they're done well and if they stay within the universe, I think a lot of folks will probably gravitate them to the end.
Right.
In the end, overall, another one that I don't know too much about. You might know more than me. But another beloved character from the original trilogy, Lando Calrissian is getting his own show.
I do know quite a bit about this show. So what is being reported, although I have to say, I haven't confirmed this yet, but it's being reported that both Danny Glover and Billy D. Williams are going to be reviving Lando. So it sounds like there's an opportunity here, and I love this idea, that there might be some throw back and forth between, senior Lando and young Lando. Now, Glover did an amazing job with him in Solo. He's one of my favorite characters in that. I'm all about him coming back. Billy D. Williams is a special actor. I think this could be really interesting if they go back and forth from pre-A New Hope to post-Return of the Jedi with these characters, right?
Yeah.
Especially before Rise of Skywalker, right? So that's going to be an interesting one for me. Because
Donald Glover. Sorry, Donald Glover is a great actor, and obviously Billy D. You could have a lot of fun with that.
Absolutely, so like again, and this is also a major Star Wars character. Like again, how did he get Cloud City? Great question that we have never had answered. Right? Like, are there more dealings with Han Solo? Might this be a test show to bring back what's his name who played young Han Solo, which I think they should do. Right?
Yeah.
There's also a lot of other stories about Lando. I mean, and again, remember, I don't buy that the last time, when we see Empire Strikes Back, I don't buy that the last time Lando saw Han Solo was after the Solo movie, that they didn't see each other for 20 years. I just don't buy that.
Right.
Or maybe it's more like 15 years, or 10 years. But
still.
Yeah. So, I'd like to see, because again, there's some feelers out there about that. Now, here's the other thing. At the end of Solo, we saw, for the first time in live action, post being impaled, Darth Maul. So might Darth Maul, might the underworld of Star Wars play a role in this show? That could be very interesting. Again, I think it's going to be a test show to see if they can bring back these characters. 2 more shows to go. We are way ahead of schedule. I timed this not wrong, but I'm glad that we're getting through. I really thought we would talk about it more.
Well, some of them have more info than others.
Right.
So I mean, and that's the thing, right? With like you said, there's some stuff we know a lot about, and there's some stuff we don't know too much.
The next show we know quite a bit about, but we don't know a lot at the same time, right? We know exactly.
Right.
We know a lot about these characters, but we don't know where they're going. It's the Bad Batch, all right? So the Bad Batch from Star Wars Clone Wars. This was in the final season. I think 2 or 3 episodes they appeared. Again, just to remind everybody, the Bad Batch is 4 or 5 clones that were all made a little bit different than the normal clone army. Some were enhanced with intelligence, some were enhanced with muscle, some were enhanced with fighting skills. They call themselves the Bad Batch. All right. And one of the things I noticed is there's a kick-ass trailer for this about these guys kind of going up after Order 66. So this takes place right after the rise of the first ever galactic empire, because you can't say that any other way. But what I noticed in the trailer that I thought was really interesting is when the logo reveal happens, it says Star Wars Clone Wars, and then that burns away into the Bad Batch. So they're very clearly stating this is the sequel to the Clone Wars, which had to end at some point, right?
Yeah.
And now we're getting a Clone Wars basically show, or style show, I should say, that takes place post Order 66. So this show is going to take place probably 1 hour after Order 66 takes place, and it can go for 20 years. It really could. It could go for 20 years. What I hope this show unveils, Ray, which no one has given the answer to this, is where did all the clones go? Right? The only thing we know about these clones is they have advanced aging, but we do not know if the advanced aging just brings them to adulthood and stops, or if it continues. Right. So if they have advanced aging, do all the clones die out 10 years after the Clone Wars, right? Which, again, is a time period we haven't seen.
Well, I mean, and we kind of know
Rex is alive.
Sort of.
Yeah,
I was gonna say
right.
Rex is alive.
Right.
So I think they kind of get slowed down. We also have expanded universe. Again, the nice thing about what Disney's been doing over the last few years is that although that's now Legends, they are borrowing elements from expanded universe and making them canon now to try and just mine that material. And one of the things is that in a couple of the expanded universe books is that I believe it's Leia and Han find an old colony of old clones. Right. Like this is several years after Return of the Jedi, so they're much like Rex. They're in their like 60s, but they've had children, they've found wives, they've settled. They have like this farming community on like one of this backwater outer rim planets. I wonder if they kind of explore that at all.
Right. Well, and here's the thing: anything post A New Hope, there's not a clone in sight. And I always thought that was a interesting thing. Like that has to be. Well, it doesn't have to be. I would like for that to be explained. And like you said, Ray, they retcon some people that Rex is alive in the future. Now, something interesting, and again, if you have not seen the last episode of the Clone Wars, you may want to fast forward 15 seconds. But in the last episode of the Clone Wars, we know that there are chips in the clones' heads that have heavy control over what they're able to do and not to do. So Order 66 was triggered by a chip in the brains of the clones. So it makes me wonder: is aging part of that chip? Like what could that be manipulated to do?
Is there a Task Force X style self-destruct thing in that chip?
So it's really cool to me to think about that. And then here's the other thing too, Operation Cinder. Did that kill all the clones? I mean, you know what I mean? Like again, who knows, right? I know that's Return of the Jedi, but who knows? Where are the clones? Okay, that's what I want to know. What happened to all the clones? Yeah. Interestingly, they did not announce the Boba Fett show. Which we thought they might, but they didn't. And I'm glad they didn't because I think Boba Fett belongs in the Mandalorian.
Or even bouncing around between several of these shows, Knights of the New Republic and Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic. I'm sorry,
okay.
I mixed up Knights
of
the
different time, but that's okay.
Knights of the older. Yeah, right. Well, I had the right time period, but I had Knights of the Old Republic, and I mixed up Rangers of the New Republic.
I gotta say it again, just going back to the Mandalorian. I gotta say. I feel like this double cross from Boba Fett is very, very possible, and I don't want it to happen. Yeah. But I could totally see Din getting Grogu and like Boba being like the debt is fulfilled, and then just turning a gun on him right away. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Oh I planted that seed, and now look, it's starting to make.
Oh no,
sense.
We've been talking about this since he showed up. You and I have both been talking. Yeah. It's people at home. By the way, he had a great paint job in the last episode we didn't talk about. It looks great.
Yes.
He went to AC Moore apparently. Okay, the last show of the 10 Star Wars shows. So just to recap: Obi Wan Kenobi, 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. Ahsoka, Rangers of the New Republic, Mandalorian season 3, all taking place in the Mandalorian timeline. Andor takes place before Rogue One, before Episode 4. The Bad Batch, post Clone Wars. Lando could be taking place 2 time periods, maybe 5 to 10 years after Revenge of the Sith to possibly after Return of the Jedi. Star Wars Visions, we do not know when any of those are going to take place. A Droid Story, R2-D2 to C-3PO, so that's going to be Sursa, Phantom Menace through all the way to Rise of Skywalker and potentially after, we have no idea. The last show, the one that people know, I would say the least about, is The Acolyte. It's called Star Wars The Acolyte. And this takes place during the High Republic, which is 200 years before the Phantom Menace, which for those of you who don't know, was the height of the Jedi Order. All right, a lot of people think that the height of the Jedi Order, because Luke said it, was right before the Emperor took over. Not true. No. It was a high point for the Jedi Order, but they were obviously not all powerful because one man took them down. It was
after the Sith Jedi War, which was 1,000 years prior to Phantom Menace, and the end there, right? Yeah, it was like probably 200 to 500 years before Phantom Menace is the height of the Jedi.
Right. So to talk about this too, there's a potential that there could be some Darth Bane rule of 2. So for those of you who don't know, Darth Bane was the first Sith Lord to realize that there could only be a Sith Master and a Sith Apprentice, one to have the power and one to crave it, right? Before this time period, that there were hundreds of Sith, thousands of Sith, millions of Sith. It was an army. And the problem is that because the dark side energy was so spread out, they just could not beat the Jedi. So Darth Bane, by the way, if you ever want to read a really great trilogy of books, the Darth Bane trilogy is phenomenal dark side. It's like a dark side Bible. That's what I say to people. Really goes through how he creates the rule of two and actually eradicates all of the Sith and most of the Jedi in the process. But the High Republic, again, this is when the Jedi are pretty much the top of the universe chain at this point. Very interesting time. We do not know much more than that it takes place during this time. We do know that Star Wars was trying to release a comic book series that took place around this time. COVID kind of screwed that up so that it didn't get the release they wanted. But they are pretty focused on this time. Now, Ray, let me check the time because now we are starting to monologue. Okay, that's 6 minutes. We're doing all right. All right. Yeah. This is something interesting about Star Wars. If you think about every Star Wars thing ever created that's not a video game, okay, or a comic book, we have only seen from the Phantom Menace through the Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yeah.
We have not seen anything outside of that, 49-year period, 50-year period?
Yeah, half a century.
Right? Yeah. That's it. And the thing is, there are stories that take place and span thousands of years after this, even some hundreds of years after Rise of Skywalker with Cade Skywalker. You can look that one up if you want.
Yeah.
Cade Skywalker he's a bum.
Well, yeah, I mean,
right?
And you said it like even in the video games, right? Like Knights of the Old Republic, I mentioned it earlier. Right. That's thousands of years
it's
or at least
beloved,
hundreds,
by the way. Loved game.
Oh, it was phenomenal.
It was.
Phenomenal.
So I'm saying is now we're taking a step outside. We'll just call it the Skywalker time period, which everybody loves, and and this obviously Mandalorian has completely revived that. I'm really kind of excited about that, and the more I think about it, the more excited I get. The question is, will people be able to bond with characters outside of the familiarity of the Skywalker time period? And I think that if it's well written, it's well done, and this is the key. The only synchronous element, I think I said that word right, at this time period is my favorite part of Star Wars. And it's why I think it may work. And it's the Force. Yeah. If you use the Force as the heart of this show, it could be very interesting. Also, there is one character that is 100% alive and a Jedi during this time period.
Yoda.
Master Yoda, if he's a master at all at that point. And he'd be about 700 years old. Right? So I fully expect Yoda to be in this show. And no one said anything. Yeah. I mean, it'd be funny if
that's a good call, yeah.
Right. It would be funny if they tried to like surprise us with him like they did with Grogu. Like, oh, Yoda. But I was like, no, I don't need that. So Yoda's around. And I think it would be really cool if Yoda's not a master. Although he probably will be at 700 years old. But what if he's just a Jedi Knight in this time period?
Yeah.
Right? And and we can learn a lot about him. Right?
He goes before the council, broods when they don't make him a master immediately.
Right. Again, like we don't need a Yoda origin story now. We're getting that. We're getting. If you ever want to know what a young Yoda looked like, we get it now. Right?
Yeah.
Much fear in him.
Yeah.
Right? So the Acolyte, high potential. And the thing is, I don't think they would have greenlit that unless somebody went into the drawing board and said, like, this, look at this. And somebody's like, oh, my Lord. If that show succeeds, it's going to bust the Star Wars universe wide open. Way wide open.
I also think it'd be great to see, again, during this time period, especially if it's pre-Rule of Two, People forget that, again, this goes back to the idea
I'm going to look up real quick for us when the Rule of Two was instituted. Okay. Go ahead.
But people forget that depending on what side you're on changes your perspective on who the good guys or the bad guys are.
That's right.
And you could easily follow also some Sith apprentices during this time to get the idea of like why they vilify the light side so much. Why they, again, raised from birth, similar to the Jedi, raised from a very young age to be proficient in the dark side, converting, corrupting kyber crystals, using the dark side, dark force lightning, choking people. Like why they are so obsessed with the dark side and think that is the true path with the Force.
Right.
I think it could be an interesting thing to explore, and this would again probably be the time period to do that.
So something very interesting about what you're saying, Ray, and this is actually definitely going to take us to the end of the time, which is amazing. We have 2 minutes, 2-minute warning. Is that and I didn't realize this till right now because I'm reading this. The Rule of Two, which again was made by Darth Bane, was based. This is cool because it makes something make sense. Was based off the idea of a Force dyad, which is exactly what they told us was existing between Kylo Ren and Rey. Palpatine, Skywalker, whatever it is. Right? But it was created with that in mind. So they could link that in the same way. All right. I'm trying to find an exact year when Darth Bane, let me just write when does Darth Bane
you keep doing that because before we run out of time, there's one other thing about Star Wars I want to mention because this is the thing that got me the most excited beyond any of these TV shows. Patty Jenkins is directing a Rogue Squadron movie.
Oh, that's huge. Yeah, we didn't mention that. It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, I know we didn't mention that. I've been waiting for that the whole time.
Right.
That, to me, is the most amazing thing because do you bring back Wedge Antilles? Do you go into the expanded universe and give us Karan Horn? You've got 10 books of material for X-Wing Rogue Squadron that you can mine from here because Kathleen Kennedy loves to complain, I don't have source material like Marvel does. Well, I can't wait till she's fired.
And again, there was a great sizzle reel for this show, by the way. Or this movie, excuse me.
Yeah, Patty Jenkins introducing it and talking about wanting to do a true fighter pilot project. I am super pumped for this.
It's gonna be
great. This is gonna be phenomenal.
If there's waiting for this. Anything the Mandalorian's taught us, it's the new age kind of filming for battles. Even the new movies, the space stuff's been great. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that. So. Yes, it's going to be a new Rogue Squadron movie. Everybody's talking well, they're going to have to reference Rogue One. I'm like, okay, I don't know why it's a big deal. With 10 seconds left, I will tell you that Darth Bane takes place 1,000 years before A New Hope, which means that there are 2 Sith out there. We do not know who they are.
The Rule of Two is already implemented.
Right, but that's going to be really cool because they're around. I hope they show that. And there's the alarm. Perfect
Sidious
timing.
has his master, right?
Yes.
And his master before him and everything else. So
and that brings up, again, as we go just into a little bit of overtime, tiny bit, that makes me wonder, are we going to see Darth Plagueis the Wise? Yeah. Okay, and I think that we might. All right? Because he's alive probably around that time. I've read Darth Plagueis, the book, which was 98% of that book was great. Had one of the fastest endings. I'm reading this book. I remember this is now outside of this is a side note. I'm reading this book, Darth Plagueis, and it's just great. I'm like, wow, this is so great. He's meeting Palpatine, all the stuff that goes on. And I remember I'm getting to the last chapters, and I'm like, man, there's only 20 pages left. And I'm like, I kind of know what, you kind of know what's going to happen because if you know the Star Wars, I'm like, there's not many pages left. And the story's just like, dun, 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 and we're done. And I was like, oh, well. I mean, I guess they were banking on that you already knew how it was going to end. It just ended very abruptly. Okay, that was Ray. We did that. We did time that right.
So, and that's just Star Wars for what Disney announced this week. So it was also a huge week for Marvel.
Yes.
Obviously,
and that was overshadowed by Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, which is amazing. But we got first off, they did say Black Widow will be out within the next.
Should I start the timer, Ray? We got to keep ourselves accountable.
Yeah, get to start.
Okay, this is a 20-minute section. 20.
Okay.
Are you ready, Ray?
Yes.
3. Oh, I got to do it geek-wise. Here we go.
Yeah, so we know that in the next 6 months, Black Widow will come at some point, whether it's theaters and Disney Plus. They still, I didn't hear that they were specific on that, but they did also give us a release date for Shang-Chi that is dropping July, and Black Widow will be out before that. So Disney is banking on being able to go back to the theaters by the summer. Whether there's still theaters to go to, not sure. We'll talk about that more later.
Well,
but
what it means is this: is that it means that Black Widow's coming out no matter what in March, and my guess is it will be in theaters for 2 weeks, and right onto Disney Plus. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna guess.
Yeah, exactly. So that's a big deal. They're moving forward. They announced a ton of projects.
Do you want me to do them in chronological order of release date for you?
Yes, okay, that would probably make things easier.
I will announce it. I will let you have the first word. I will have the second word in the next 19 minutes. The first one coming January 15th, 2021. 2021. One we already knew about. WandaVision. Yeah. All right. New trailer was out. Ray, WandaVision.
Yeah, so I mean, this one we've talked about before a lot on the show. Obviously, it was supposed to come out in December. They pushed it back a little bit, but it is good to go, going into different time periods based off of very much different sitcoms. We saw the Dick Van Dyke Show, we saw the Brady Bunch. Like
every decade from the 50s on, we saw.
Right, and it leans into sitcoms and whatnot, and it's going to tie into Doctor Strange, which is going to tie into Spider-Man 3, which we've got, again, we're going to get into chronologically, but this is going to be critical to kicking off probably the multiverse and really the next stage of Marvel outside of Black Widow, which of course is a prequel.
Right. The biggest thing that I took out of this trailer that not enough people are talking about was a very, very clear visual of the Soul Stone. Very clear. All right. And it makes me wonder, it was Soul Stone or the Mind Stone, but we saw a stone, which means that we know that a stone is going to take place or have a heavy role in this show.
The gems are still a big part of this world.
And again, I had predicted that this show is going to revolve around potentially Vision's death or resurrection, because again, the one thing that like is very much out there is, well, what did Cap do with the Mind Stone?
Right.
You know, when he had to, if it has to go back to the timeline, would he just go back to the forest and throw it at Vision's body? I mean,
Right.
So I think that this is going to take place revolving somehow around his death or his resurrection, and Scarlet Witch trying to help that happen.
And obviously makes me believe that obviously this is going to be a one season, one and done kind of thing.
Almost every one of these, I think any show that involves a character that was in a movie to this point will be a one.
Will be a one and done, one season.
Which brings us to the next one, which is we finally got a great trailer: The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, debuting March of 2021, which means that as soon as WandaVision ends. It's funny. As soon as WandaVision ends, we get Black Widow, and then we right away get Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is awesome.
Yeah, which also makes me wonder if there's going to be anything in Black Widow that harkens back to Falcon Winter Soldier, because it's all about the military and espionage. Obviously, Winter Soldier is another product of the Red Room, same as Black Widow. So I'm curious to see if there's going to be any ties there.
I would hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so too. But I think that, like you said, it's probably a one-off. But this one, you could have potential, obviously, with Falcon now carrying Cap's shield. They could continue this for a while, potentially, depending on what happens with the other movies that are coming out over the course of the next 3 years. And again,
like what I think we do know about the show is that Falcon is not taking the mantle of Captain America just yet. We just know that. We know the shield's involved somehow, but that's about it. Again, trailer looked great. Looks like the humor between those two characters is intact. Really looking forward to that. The trailer didn't tell us much about the story. It was a lot of action. Just a lot of action. Which brings us to the next trailer, which we knew was coming, but we didn't know anything about it till now. Coming in May of 2021. So these shows are back to back to back, right? It's just, there's going to be new Marvel stuff every week, not every 4 months.
One rolls right into the other.
The next one is Loki. And this was a really interesting trailer. They did a great job of showing us obviously, when Loki took the Tesseract and disappeared. And then the Time Various Agency finds him. And this is what is interesting about this, right? The TVA, which apparently Owen Williams is part of, is really interesting because that is an agency that often fails, but basically deals with people messing with timelines, right? Yeah. So my guess, and I thought this would be a really cool thing, is that they see this Loki out of place. He should not be where he is. Right. Something has happened with the time variance, which we know is the Avengers messing around. And they're going to blame him, that the god of mischief is messing with the timeline. And Loki's not going to have any idea what they're talking about, which I love. Because then we see, it looks like maybe they're trying to put him back in his timeline, and they can't seem to figure out what timeline that is. Now, the fact that it's Owen Wilson tells me that there's going to be a little bit of humor here.
Wow.
Yeah, wow, you Loki? Wow. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Tom Hiddleston and him interact, but also this show of him going all around. And then it makes you wonder, Ray, let's just say they do eventually. Like, think about what if the show, speaking of what if, right? Now, what if the show ended with Loki going back to the correct timeline?
Yeah.
And then restoring the, Avengers timeline. And then how cool would it be if he knew what was going to happen? Like, it would completely change the dynamic of his character moving forward from Avengers 1. right?
Yeah, it makes him look like a different,
Right.
completely different character.
Right, and he does kind of turn after that, into a good guy. So interesting.
Right.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, no, we're gonna get into there's a lot of time travel projects on this timeline, which we're gonna get into as well, because who knows how this time travel project, which I believe it will be a one-off,
Right.
Affects the other time travel projects.
Right.
But continue on the timeline.
So continuing our timeline, the summer. This is when we don't
Yes.
have dates too much anymore. But in the summer of 2021, we have a show that I'm actually really, really excited for because I've always loved any comic book that does this. And it's Marvel's What If.
Yes.
All right, and we got a great trailer for this.
Animated show. Yeah,
Right.
animated show. The big one that stood out is so basically, you don't know. What If was a series of taking key Marvel moments and turning them on their head. Yeah. What if? In this case, the one that I remember was most prominent was, what if Peggy got the super soldier serum instead of Steve Rogers? Right? What if she was the super soldier? And actually kind of showed a lot of interesting things, like the misogyny she had to deal with, obviously, in the 1940s, even though she's basically saving the Allies, like, left and right. That was a big one. But these have been happening over many, many years, many great stories.
The zombies, too. There's the Cap as a zombie in that trailer.
Yeah, there was the zombies one, which of course is another alternate universe. Right. People forget a lot of these popular characters around right now, like Spider-Gwen and all this, they're basically what ifs. Right? Like, it's what if Gwen Stacy got spider powers instead of Peter Parker, right? Like, what if Peter was the one who, what if there was, again, a lot of role reversals are common in What If.
Right. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Star Wars did a whole series of what ifs that were awesome as well. But we're not talking about Star Wars anymore. We're talking about Marvel. And yes. I'm looking forward to the show because I actually think that it's possible this might go a little bit beyond just what if, right? What if this plays into timelines, like you said? What if this actually has a MCU level kind of tie into it? Not a major one, but one that's like, if this stone wasn't returned or this didn't happen, if gamma radiation didn't do this, that would be pretty interesting. I think
there's one where, like, what if, not in this series, but I remember from reading, like, what if Rick Jones got the Hulk powers?
Right.
Like, what if Banner didn't save Rick Jones and Jones became the Hulk? Like,
there's a lot of cool things that could happen in What If.
Although he, funnily enough, became an abomination later on in the comics. Anyway, but that's another story.
So we're down to 11 minutes, and we have a lot of shows to go. So here we go. We got to keep going here. So now we're getting to the ones we don't know a ton about. But we know a little bit of. Late 2021, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan coming to a live-action show. Cannot wait for this. Again, this is going to be one where this is not a character in the MCU, per se. We do know that this looks to be a little bit more of a family-orientated show. Big applause to Marvel for bringing a Pakistani into the live-action universe and a strong female character that is a newer member of the, I would say, Marvel comic book family, but a great one. Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, is an awesome character. Obviously, if you played the Avengers video game, you know how fun she is.
Yeah, and her comics have been around now for about 10 years.
Yeah, she's newer.
A little more than that. But she's definitely grown quickly into one of the more popular new characters for Marvel.
And this is going to be about her struggle as both a Pakistani woman, her struggles as a young person, a teenager coming of age story. And getting tremendous powers, in the current
and
canon,
she's from Jersey, so
right, and she's gonna be in New Jersey, and so screw everybody. We know that in the current canon, her name Miss Marvel is that she's a big fan of Captain Marvel. So I don't know if they're gonna.
Yes, the original Captain Marvel was Ms. Marvel before she became Captain Marvel.
So I don't know how they're gonna play that, or even how she gets her powers, if they're gonna keep that canon or not. I won't spoil that for anybody. So Miss Marvel, late 2021. Also late 2021, Hawkeye, the show coming out, which is looking to be really cool. We got some teaser footage of that, of him and his daughter. So that's going to be an interesting show. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out after Black Widow comes out. I think that's why we don't know a lot about it. We know Haley Schoenfeld is going to play his daughter, young Hawkeye. And that should be interesting. I don't want to comment too much on that because I think Black Widow is going to have something to do with where that story goes. Also, if we all saw Avengers Endgame, so we know what happens to Black Widow. That's going to have a legacy into this, obviously. And I believe his daughter will take her place, potentially, in any future movies. So those are the movies that we know and shows that we know are coming out. They all have release dates. Now there's a flurry, Ray, in 8 minutes and 54 seconds of to be announced shows.
Yeah, a lot of TBDs.
Right. So no dates yet, but some of these are really awesome. The first one is one that I'm really excited about. It's Armor Wars, which is something we got
starring Don Cheadle as War Machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you looking for these? Right. You looking for this? Whatever that meme was going around.
And it's a big deal because it needs to be mentioned. Obviously, Armor Wars in the comics starred Tony Stark, but obviously Tony's dead in this universe, so War Machine kind of going to be filling that role,
right?
Which is going to be fascinating.
The only synopsis we got for this is what happens when Tony Stark's technology falls into the wrong hands, which kind of fits perfectly into him being dead.
Yeah.
We also think Hammer is going to be in the show. He's going to be revived. Because that's the main person. You know, when Iron Man 2 came out, I remember Ray and I discussing long before the show was made that, oh my God, they're doing Armor Wars. They're gonna do the Armor Wars, and we kind of got it. Like, and I was actually very satisfied.
We got bits and pieces of it, but. And this is the thing, there's so many stories that come out of Tony's tech going around the world, whether it's armor or guns or whatever, extremists, like all this other stuff, and him trying to get it back under one roof because it's causing all these problems. And again, it also stems from the fact that he used to be a war
and it's great for Don Cheadle's character because this is a natural progression for War Machine, who really, after Tony's death, had no purpose. You know what I mean? Because we know he's not going to be Iron Man. So this is going to be great. The next show to be announced, which I'm very quizzical about anytime this is at the end of a show name, is Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Don't know much about that. I'm sure it's going to be hilarious. I'm sure it's going to be really funny. But anytime you do Holiday Special, we all think back to Star Wars. But very interested to see that. That's going to be followed up by another animated show called I Am Groot, which I have no idea what that's going to be about. Or who's going to be it, or who the main character is.
Yeah,
It's going to be about Groot.
I don't know, and I don't know what like you said, I don't know what's going to happen with this stuff. I mean, it's obviously going to be more comedic leaning, probably with Guardians and Groot and whatnot, but
which is fine, right? So
it feels like this is a stopgap until James Gunn can finish Suicide Squad and then makes Guardians 3.
Well, here's the thing,
which was also announced, by the way. We'll get into that.
Yeah, what I don't know, and this is why a lot of these are TBA. We don't know what's going to happen in the MCU that might affect some of these, which is actually really going to lead us into the next one, which is it's a massive one. This is a massive one that it's almost like, well, okay, Armor Wars could really change this. MCU films could change this. It's Ironheart. And for those of you who don't know what Ironheart is, that's the heir apparent to Tony Stark. All right, and Iron Man.
The child prodigy who, and I'm curious with Ironheart, what if now in the comics it's a completely unrelated girl who becomes this child prodigy, basically builds her own suit of armor similar to Iron Man when she's 16, and obviously catches the eye of Tony, and he kind of takes her under his wing. This is just throwing it out there. What if it's Tony's daughter?
Right.
Just putting it out there. We don't know. Are they going to go the route of a completely unrelated character? Right. Maybe somebody inspired by Iron Man, or like you said, possibly a fallout from Armor. Does this result as a fallout from Armor Wars?
Right. We don't know. All we know is they casted a lead female to play the part of Ironheart. We don't know anything about it. And like I said, this is why I said the MCU is going to play heavily into some of these shows. You know, is it the kid from Iron Man 3? Is he involved in this?
Yeah.
They brought him back.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, with 5 minutes left, we have 5 shows. I think we can make this happen. The next one is MODOK, to be announced, right?
Yes.
So MODOK is the name of the show, no description.
Means that AIM is obviously going to be a huge role.
Right.
Obviously, one of the big terrorist organizations in the Marvel universe. Advanced Idea Mechanics. Obviously, if you played the Avengers game, you're very familiar with them. But they've been around for a long time, and they are a constant thorn in the Avengers side.
Right, and just so MODOK stands for Mental, Mobile, or Mechanized Organism Designed Only for Killing.
For killing, yes.
Right. I just wanted to say that. So, mechanized organism designed only for killing.
Yeah, he's basically a giant
MODOK.
head on a hovercraft.
Right. I think it's a little gratuitous, but hey. All right, next one to be announced is Moon Knight. We've said this before. This is Batman in the MCU.
Yeah, I mean the question is going to be how crazy do they make Mark Spector? Right. Is it Mark Spector who's literally talking to the ghost of Egyptian gods, or is it just like you said, like Batman, right? Where he's a bit more serious and more into him. I think this has the potential for a lot of comedy. We've seen a lot of memes come out from Moon Knight over the past few years, where he's like looking to get money from Dracula and stuff like that. Obviously, it's the same. It's the panels from the comics with different text.
Right.
But I'm curious to see where they go with this because it has potential to be very funny or very dark, depending on how they want to go.
And I'm going to say this too. One of the things we don't know, and we have to kind of mention this, we've been alluding to, like, we don't know how these play out in the universe. Like, after Multiverse of Madness, a lot of stuff could be different.
Yes.
So that brings me to the next one, which is they finally gave Nick Fury his own show, Marvel's Secret Invasion, which we know typically revolves around the Kree and everything that's happening. It makes me wonder if at the end...
Skrulls, the
Kree and the Skrulls. It makes me wonder that, the last time we saw Nick Fury was at the end of Spider-Man, and he was on a Skrull spaceship, right?
He's been hanging out with the Skrulls, just all these shapeshifters, and what happens
Secret Invasion. So that could have been the lead into this. And the thing is, I know it's to be announced, but that's within 2 years. That's very, very, very possible that that's where that's going. If we don't see Nick Fury again. So Secret Invasion, that's going to be starring Samuel L. Jackson. Again, TV show, interesting.
And even that, we already know a Skrull for that. All was the last Spider-Man movie. Spoilers, was impersonating Nick Fury the whole time.
Right.
I mean, he's a good
Skrull. To space.
Yeah,
I love that line.
It's a good Skrull, but still, obviously, I'm sure there's going to be bad Skrulls who take advantage of that as well.
What's amazing is, it's going to make the film Captain Marvel that much more important where they were introduced. And it's going to be interesting. It also makes me wonder about the Captain Marvel sequel, which was announced a while back, if that's going to take place with this. A lot of these are going to lead into other things that we know about.
Yeah, right? I mean, there was a lot of movie confirmations again as well. We'll get into those very briefly, but continue with the
continuing
TV shows.
The next one, and this is massive. This is, I think, of all the shows announced, this to me is the biggest announcement, and it's She-Hulk.
Yes.
Okay.
Agreed.
Right.
Totally. Cannot wait.
We do know, and this is important to delineate. We do know that Ruffalo will be playing Hulk in this show. And that Abomination will be back from
from the Norton project, which makes that, which a lot of people weren't sure, but that basically confirms now that that Mark Ruffalo is playing the Ed Norton Hulk, basically. This was supposed to be.
And we knew that.
We knew it, but
there's been no acknowledgement.
They tried to separate themselves because there was not not a very amicable split with them and Ed Norton.
Right.
But the fact that they're bringing back Tim Roth to play the Abomination is a huge deal, and again confirms and solidifies that is who that is, and that. Again, Abomination. It also makes you think at the end of that movie, they tease the leader.
Right.
We could get some major Hulk villains here that we've been waiting forever for.
And we know,
even though we also know that there's going to be another individual Hulk.
There's going to be a Hulk trilogy of films.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is that although those two characters are in it, She-Hulk will be the main character, and I think that will not detract. I think it will only advance her. She-Hulk is an awesome character, not as crazy as Hulk. Also, not as big as Hulk, but as strong as Hulk. And it's going to be very, very interesting. So She-Hulk, I think, is the biggest announcement. But with that said, we know the least about it because we don't know where the universe is going to go.
And the thing is that you could have a lot of crossovers there because, again, a lot of times Jen Walters, of course, the true persona of She-Hulk, she's a lawyer. She's a lawyer by day, and a lot of times, because of her own superhero status, represents superheroes and sometimes even supervillains.
That was in the synopsis, too.
Yeah, who have obviously run afoul of the law. Like I think she's represented Rhino and Juggernaut and obviously a lot of heroes over the years. So obviously, I'm sure
we've just hit zero.
Daredevil.
Well, there's a lot of rumors that maybe Daredevil shows up in this show.
Right, and it's a way to bring him back into the Marvel
which people
universe.
want. Yeah. So we're out of time, but there's only one thing left, and it's fine because Ray and I have probably nothing to say about it. The last Marvel show is Silk. We know about as much about this as you do, that it may be a Spider-Man type thing.
It's another Silk is I believe a Korean American who gets spider powers again. Another one of many different people who somehow have acquired spider powers over the years.
Right.
She'll be operating probably out of New York City as well. She crosses Spider-Man's path many times, so maybe we'll get a Tom Holland cameo at one point or another. But this is a and it could also maybe she grows at one point. She's also Spider-Woman, so this could be a possibility.
So,
there.
and again, that's going to be heavily a lot of these shows are going to be determined by what happens in movies and multiverses. Speaking of that, so now we got this next segment's not going to be timed because it's kind of the scraps of the geek news, right? But there's a lot of movies we got to talk about. And Ray, if I may transition from Silk, we got to talk about Spider-Man because more and more actors are signing on. William Dafoe apparently is reviving his role.
Green Goblin. Norman Osborn.
Yeah. So something nervously big is brewing for Spider-Man 3. That is going to involve every Spider-Man we have ever seen on the screen. All right? And I do not know how it's going to play out. And I can only sit back and trust that that Marvel and Disney know what they're doing and that this should be awesome. That's all I can say.
I mean, and they've talked about, obviously, Doctor Strange 2 is going to tie into that big time. It makes me wonder, even if Shang-Chi, they're introducing the 10 rings, right? The Mandalorian's 10 rings of power, which have, when combined, can do crazy things. Probably not, but it's still a possibility. I mean, there's a lot going to be happening on the movie front. And this is... God, I mean, we're going to get into it in a second, but it's also, again, I've mentioned this several times, that this also could end up being a thing that ends up leading us to the Fantastic Four, which was also announced. But again, Spider-Man, I mean, again, I hate to say it, but I've called it several times. I'm going to say it again. Spider-Man, I think they're going to pull an Adam West thing where it's going to be like, this is how they clear Peter Parker's name in the main universe after Mysterio reveals his identity. Is that you have Andrew Garfield and or Tobey Maguire swinging through his New York City, and you have Tom Holland's Peter Parker just be like, I can't be Spider-Man. There's Spider-Man. Hey, Spider-Man, take a picture. Click, and like they show that relationship.
What I wonder is there going to be some reason for Doctor Strange to have Tom Holland's Peter Parker visit all these other Spider Worlds, and like you said, draw them all to his world to fight something. Right.
Well, I mean, and that makes me go back and think of, I mean, from the series finale of the 90s
which was
cartoon.
a great episode.
Oh, great, tremendous. Yeah, the last few episodes, I think it was 3 or 4 parts, but like it was terrific where you get armored Spider-Man, you get Spider-Man with 6 arms, you get obviously mainline Peter Parker, you get Peter Parker with Doc Ock's arms, you get Peter Parker, and obviously they're all fighting Spider Carnage, which is nuts. I don't think they're going to do Spider Carnage here. But
might they do Venom? Might they do Carnage? Who knows? Like again, there's
might they have Tom Hardy's Venom at some point make a brief appearance? Like you could do so much here. I have no idea how it's going to turn out.
It's going to be epically amazing or horrible. There will be no in between for this film.
Yes, a complex web they are weaving for sure.
Ooh, that was nice. Well done, Ray.
Thank you. But that also brings us other movies. They announced Fantastic Four.
Yeah, huge.
Been saying this for a long time that they could use Spider-Man as a vessel, or obviously all these other universes. You have all this space travel. They've set the stones here, or the pieces in place, the foundation to easily bring the Fantastic Four now here. Funny enough, Fantastic Four was one of the first heroes from Marvel. Now you're having them come back after, towards the, after all these other heroes have come in. But you've set up an easy foundation for them to do it.
Well, and that could, as you have said many times in the show, spawn mutants, thus spawning the X-Men, which is what I think they're going to do at this point. I think that it would make too much sense not to do it. So, Fantastic Four. Again, they've had one good series, one bad series. We're due for a good one.
We're due for them to fix it. And the other big announcement was Ant-Man 3.
Yeah.
They confirmed that's coming in a couple of years, but they confirmed, again, going back to Loki and time travel and all this other stuff, Kang the Conqueror is the villain in Ant-Man 3. And that is huge.
That's a Thanos-level villain. Actually, it's bigger than Thanos, now that I'm thinking of it. This is much larger than Thanos.
Yeah, he is somebody who specializes in talking about messing up timelines in order to make himself a galactic emperor.
Well, we should mention too that this is geek news, right? That in Fortnite, right, they did the whole Marvel thing, and the bad guy in that was Kang the Conqueror. You have to fight Kang the Conqueror.
You had Kang, you had Galactus in there, you had a few others. So
it's going to be interesting.
Fantastic Four villains.
Right. So, and I don't think that that's coincidence. I think that that's that's kind of a hint.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well, they're very rapidly expanding the Marvel universe,
Right,
like,
which is fine by me. Like again, they're making it so you can't go a week without it. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey,
So.
you got any more of that Marvel MCU stuff? You got any more of those shows?
Yeah, no.
Keeping in mind, by the way, when there's no Marvel, it's like, here's a Mandalorian, here's Star Wars.
Yeah, no, they've got it's Disney Plus is making itself like a must-have if you're a geek.
It already is.
Yeah, well, exactly. So
we don't need to sleep anymore. Don't you understand? That's what they're saying.
Basically, I mean, just plug it into my veins, dude. That's it. Just
golden age of geekdom right now.
Yeah. No, exactly, and it's going to be amazing. And yes, I mean again, there were some other projects that Disney announced. Obviously, the big next Disney Pixar thing, Soul, which is a movie about a guy who goes to the afterlife and his soul kind of gets lost. It looks fantastic.
It does.
It looks like another tearjerker from Disney Pixar. They've announced, again, we mentioned very beginning, Lightyear starring Chris Evans, which is going to be a real life Buzz Lightyear
right,
thing.
Exactly. It's very important. It's not about the toy. It's about the character that inspired the actual Buzz Lightyear, which a lot of people would piss because like, it's not Tim Allen. Like, no, it's not the same character. You have to,
right.
You have to understand that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of other stuff going on, but Disney is absolutely has basically just said, we own the media, we own medium.
Oh, you guys are gonna release movies? That's nice. We're just gonna make our own. By the way, Disney, I have to say this. There's all this anger going on around theaters and movies not being on theaters. Disney really did pull one over everybody. Like, oh no, we're making shows. They're not movies, they're shows, and nobody's complaining about that. Right? It's funny because like if you think about Justice League, they're like, oh, it's gonna be four episodes. Like, oh, it's a show. Okay, it's like a show. Well, we're releasing Wonder Woman. You can't do that. You can't release Wonder Woman. That's a movie. Yeah, it's like Mandalorian is an 8-hour movie.
Yeah. Well, and that brings us into, before we get into video games, that brings us into our next story, actually, which is just quickly that AMC announced that if they don't get suddenly an emergency influx of funds, they're going to be closing down all their theaters in the end of January. They only have enough money to operate for another 6 weeks. And again, Regal closed down, I think, last month, a lot of their theaters, AMC next. Look, we knew the pandemic was going to has hit so many people hard. But, we also talked about it here many times in the show, is that you need to innovate. But unfortunately, I think these guys, they didn't, look, the pandemic's not over. They weren't able to even survive through it to get to that point where they can try and get people get back. And it's sad. It is. But I think that this accelerated what was going to happen one day anyway. We were talking today about, me and Lee were talking about earlier about video games, about the death of physical media in video games. That's happening. That transition is happening as we speak. You have literally a PS5 and an Xbox Series S now that are digital only, and they're selling just as much as the ones that can still play physical media, the ones with disc drives.
Well, here's the deal. AMC is looking for a savior. Disney is just sitting there like vultures, like, let me know when you got a business because we'll buy you. So that's what's going to happen, is they're going to get down to the lowest price. And yes, somebody will buy AMC and Regal because we're getting close to the time period where that can happen. If I'm AMC, it's like, that vaccine's looking really nice right now, guys. Can you please get it out there? But I think that, they're going to need an influx of cash, and I expect Netflix, Hulu, YouTube, Disney, Facebook, Google, anybody might buy these.
Buy up those spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
So someone's going to buy them, and we are going to have a much better theater experience. We've been talking about this for literally a year on this show. So I expect that's going to happen. Speaking of Xboxes, Ray.
Yeah, so that brings us
into
our
Xboxes,
our next
Ray.
big segment, of course, is video games. This was a big week for video games. This was the Game Awards, which is a show that I have a love-hate relationship with, because they consistently do some things well, and they also consistently do some things not well. And I think it's a show that kind of is trapped. It still doesn't know what it wants to be.
Right.
It doesn't know if it wants to be an award show. It doesn't know if it wants to be like E3.5, where it's like a kind of a half step with a lot of previews and announcements. Yeah, and it kind of does kind of a mix. And at the end of the day, a lot of times people are just kind of like, the show's too long, and what ends up happening is that what gets sacrificed is the awards. And we don't hear from a lot of the people who worked tirelessly to accept these awards. Because these, again, the Game Awards, this is voted on by the press. So this is kind of like the video game industry's Golden Globes. The Oscars are in February, when they should be, like most awards show, where it's the DICE Awards, the Design, Innovate, Communicate, Entertain Awards. Those are basically the video game Oscars. Those are in February.
Right.
Basically, what's and unfortunately with these Golden Globes of video games is that it's so ad driven that the awards themselves kind of get undercut.
Right.
That said, very briefly, no surprise because the game's press is very out of touch with their audience. The Last of Us 2,
just horribly.
The Last of Us 2 swept most of the awards.
Yeah, pisses me off. Ray and I were talking about this off the air.
Yeah.
Ray, I'm sorry, I did jot it. I got feelings about this one. Look, The Last of Us 2 is a well-written story. And the thing is this, is that I rarely see anything about the gameplay of The Last of Us 2. Keeping in mind, we're talking about video games. Right? I see the story about, spoiler, oh, they killed Joel. And then this happened. And I've seen every cutscene from that damn game at least once. Right?
Yes.
I've never seen any gameplay. So it's like, okay, what are we voting on here? The best cinematic cutscenes? Because, don't get me wrong, that probably would win that, to be fair. All right?
Yes. For sure.
Game?
I mean, look.
Game? I don't know, man. Again, I'll let you unveil what you think it is if you want to, but, because I think you're spot on. I think that your point of view on this is spot on.
The Last of Us 2, first off, I'm going to say this. I don't think The Last of Us needed a sequel. This is I mean, I get it. It's a business and you got to keep going, all this other stuff, but The Last of Us could have been fine as a standalone story. Right? Which I think, again,
we make.
Well, exactly. The games industry is always is terrified of letting something just
how many gods of war are there?
Well, the fifth one will come out next year.
How many of his brethren does he have to piss off?
Well, seventh, actually, if you count the prequels, actually, that were on handhelds.
There you go.
But,
there's a lot of gods. Right?
Yeah, there's a lot of gods, and then they moved into Norse mythology. I get it, right? I get it. I do. At least, though, they found a way to make it interesting and to work with it. To me, and the gameplay also made advancements.
Right.
The Last of Us and The Last of Us 2, the gameplay, the first word that comes to mind for me is trite. It's not something that's been done, that hasn't been done before or hasn't been done better. Again, look, character development, writing, cutscenes, the graphics, I'll give you all of that. But in terms of the gameplay, and honestly, I'm going to say this, I don't really think the story's that great. Anyway,
it was it was shock value. Let's just be honest.
Exactly.
About it.
I mean, and let's be honest. We all knew that they were. Look, first off, The Last of Us 1 came out 7 years ago. So if I'm spoiling anything from that game, that's tough. But to me, the worst part about The Last of Us 1 was that to me anyway, and why I didn't like the first one is that the game basically says at the end that what Joel does, again, a decision that you don't make is they take the control out of your hands, is that you basically wasted your time and that you're kind of the bad guy. For those of you who don't know, Joel, in order to save Ellie is the carrier of the vaccine that could save humanity from this zombie apocalypse. But Joel, in order to redeem himself because he failed his daughter and his family when the outbreak first started, goes in, shoots up a hospital, and drags Ellie against her will out of the hospital. And then he lies to her and he says, "You don't worry, there were other candidates." No, there weren't. And it bothers me that, again, in a time where the idea of self-sacrifice is poo-pooed upon for the greater good, that this was a game that kind of celebrated that. Look at this guy. He's marching in there. He's saving this girl. It's like, no, he doomed humanity for his own guilt.
It's playing off. It's clearly playing off the success of The Walking Dead, and it's filling gaps that The Walking Dead clearly has. The Last of Us 2. Again, I know a lot of you love the game. I know you love the shock, but it's a TV show.
Yeah.
All right, it's not.
Now it is going to be. Now it is going to be.
Yeah, and it is right. Now,
again,
Ray, I don't know if you want to unveil yet which your game of the year is. I understand if you don't want to, but
I'll do it. I'm okay with it.
Well, I want you to because it's a true game. It's a true story. It also mimics other games of the years of game of the year of the past. Yeah. So I'll let you talk about, but I totally am with you on this, like 100%.
Well, and for me, it was easily Ghost of Tsushima. Like, it was not even a question, because again, you have the great story, this amazing story about this guy who was outcast, who was looking for reclaiming his lost honor, trying to save basically his people.
I want to play it on that alone. That alone is more intriguing to me. I can't speak for everybody. Than The Last of Us 2.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is that, you know, so you have this amazing story. And also, by the way, from a graphical standpoint, I think Ghost of Tsushima is better.
Right.
I think, look, I'm going to spoil it, but having samurai duels in the bay overlooking the Sea of Japan as the sun sets, as chrysanthemum petals circle around you against other samurai. Beautiful. This amazing visual style that you only see in like Kurosawa films and old samurai films translated into a video game so perfectly.
Into gameplay.
And then on top of it, you're having this incredible duel that you are in control of with these other guys. And that's just one aspect of the gameplay. Right. There's also stealth aspects. There's also ninja aspects. There's climbing. There's swinging with grappling hooks. Yeah. Exploration, like it's a cross between it. I mean, you have elements of where you feel like you're Batman in feudal Japan. Like, and obviously, yes, I know I'm a big Batman fan, but again, you have this incredible story where a guy has to choose his family or his honor. He has to choose his, and again, maybe this just resonates more with me and Lee.
Think about that at home. Could you do that right now? Could you make that decision easily right now? Maybe some of you could. That's true gaming. The Last of Us 2 doesn't let you do that as much. You can fight me on that all you want. That game puts you on a path that you have to stay on.
Yeah.
I don't care what you say.
Yeah.
All right?
It's just, it is what it is. I mean, look, The Last of Us 2 deserves some of its accolades. The performances, again, were great.
We're not saying it's a bad game. That's very important. No one's saying it's a bad game.
It's not game of the year.
No.
It's not game
of
the
year. And I agree
year.
with you, Ray. And I've watched you play Ghost of Tsushima on your Twitch stream, Ray Carcillo. Yeah. And I got to say that I enjoyed watching you play it.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm going to say this again. I don't think I've ever actually seen anybody play The Last of Us 2. I've only seen cutscenes.
Yeah,
right?
No, exactly. Like, it's not a game that translates well to again, the gameplay to me, it feels...
Right. It's poorly named, too. It should have been called The Last of Us.
Yeah, well, and again, it really a game that didn't need a sequel. We didn't need the sequel.
Maybe they should have called it Most of Us.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the series. It's fine. I hope Naughty Dog goes back to Uncharted.
I'm going to say this again. We cannot deny the popularity of the game. We cannot deny the emotion that the game created for the people that played it. But it was cutscenes and cutscenes and cutscenes, and you can. I will praise the storytelling, and again, having known the story, a lot of shock value. I will totally give it that. All right.
Yeah.
But none of it was in the gameplay, in my opinion. And Ghost of Tsushima had everything. Everything.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, and again, and it goes back to the fact, and again, to knock the current crop of games press, where I feel they're kind of really out of touch with their audience. Right. I saw a lot of people on Twitter complaining about this, being like Ghost of Tsushima was the better game. And maybe that's just, and look, maybe that's just my bubble. Maybe that's just the people I play with. Maybe that's just the people I've got, a couple thousand people on Twitter, but like a lot of them were kind of like a lot of people in general. There was something about The Last of Us they didn't like. Nobody could complain about Ghost of Tsushima, and I feel like that the games press felt pressured or obligated because
it's like the Oscars, man. It's like the Oscars. Yeah. Like listen, let us remind you all what the game of the year was last year.
Yeah, I don't even remember.
It was Untitled Goose Game.
Oh God, yeah. I had blocked it from my mind. That's the thing.
We went from Untitled Goose Game to The Last of Us 2. This is just a reactionary pick Again,
Yeah.
and please, if you disagree with us, let us know. We are all about the discussion. I don't want you to think we think we're just right because we're saying it. But, like,
Yeah.
make up your... Come on, guys. Like, at least with Untitled Goose Game, which I didn't agree with at all, like, it should have won most innovative game, new game.
Yeah.
Right, but it's like, what this is like picking a magazine cover or just pop culture. Come on, do your job.
Yeah.
I can tell you this. Ray might not be able to say this, but I can say this. Ray took these things very, very seriously. When he was voting or writing, he did his research. At any point that I've known Ray, as he continues to work in the gaming industry and has for many years, he takes this responsibility very, very seriously. He keeps lists. He has year-long journals where he keeps notes about everything that he plays, everything he touches. I can tell you right now that is not happening by and large in this industry. It is pop culture. It is who's going to buy games, what can we sell. Ray is a true gaming journalist, all right, and a true gaming ranker. I mean, he takes it seriously. And I don't think the gaming industry is taking this very seriously. You go from Untitled Goose Game to The Last of Us 2 when you have Ghost of Tsushima out there. You have it out there.
Yeah.
You have it out there, you idiots.
Yeah.
And you didn't even play
again,
it. They probably didn't even play it. I bet you they didn't play it.
It really feels like that a lot of them, again, they're going with what's popular.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it.
In terms of, like, the extreme people on social media. But, like, when you actually talk to most gamers, they didn't really care for The Last of Us 2. Again, it was a game that didn't need to be made.
Just so we can get off of this, I'm just going to say this. I think a lot of this is driven by sales and favors and gaming companies talking to magazines and talking to reviewers and saying, hey, if you want to get exclusives, you better put us where we need to be. And I think
the funny thing is that both of them are Sony exclusives.
Well, and again, yeah, I think the integrity is a little bit of a problem.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, I mean, even that, I was talking to some folks today about games from the beginning of the year, and they're like, I completely forgot those games came out. And I'm like, yeah, I don't, because like you mentioned, I keep a year-long list.
Shame on you. Shame on you if you forgot a game came out.
Ori and the Will of the Wisps, Doom Eternal.
Right.
Like, people just completely forgetting about these games that came out.
How are you a serious person in this industry and you forgot a game that came out? How is that possible?
I mean, look, there are a lot of games that come out. I will say that. But when you're getting to the point of Game of the Year and you're forgetting...
You don't forget Doom.
That's what I'm saying. Right. There are certain things you can forget.
I forget Doom.
Doom is not one of them to me.
Anyway, look, it's a multi-billion-dollar, approaching trillion-dollar industry. It's time it's taken a little more seriously. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I think the games journalists out there need to do better jobs. I'm not going to lie. Look, you don't like it, comment below. But that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. A couple other things from the Game Awards as we do wrap up this segment. Some big announcements. EA being EA, they tease more Dragon Age and Mass Effect, but we don't get anything solid from them. As, again, we mentioned last week, as BioWare loses some of their biggest narrative guys last week. A new Perfect Dark from a new studio from Microsoft. That's a huge announcement. That's a huge exclusive.
Right, that should be interesting.
Back for Blood, a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, published by Warner Brothers, was announced. That's a big deal. The Callisto Protocol, the guys who made the original Dead Space. Again, another studio branching off because their publisher won't let them, making a spiritual successor to Dead Space. Super pumped for it. The Callisto Protocol looks amazing. Zombies in space. Actually, there's a lot of undead in this show, actually, for a lot of the announcements, by the way. Back for Blood, Callisto Protocol, and I do have to mention it. I'm not going to give, obviously, opinions on it, but I can say now is one of the games that I've been working on. We did announce the Evil Dead at the Game Awards.
And it's getting a lot of positive press, by the way. Geek Tyrant followed that. A lot of positive press. People are excited to see Bruce Campbell again.
We appreciate it. I can say that I really genuinely appreciate it as we work on that, and hope to be able to share more details in the future. Obviously, I'm not going to get much into it, but check out the trailer if you haven't. I think people are going to really like this game. I do. I legit do.
Looks fun. It looks fun. It looks like a lot of fun.
I mean, and look, I'm not going to lie. Also, we still got work to do. We still got work to do to make sure that we deliver a good game. Well, and we're going to do, I hope that we're going to do our best.
Speaking of that, I'm not segueing out of this, but I do need to sidetrack for 1 second. Speaking of games that have work to do, I want everybody listening. We will talk about Cyberpunk, but we're going to do it in the weeks to come. Mainly because we don't have enough time on this episode because of all the stuff that came out. We do have a lot of thoughts about Cyberpunk 2077, but we want to give that game at least a little bit of time just to kind of to resonate out there before we do it. But I will just tease very quickly that I'm not happy with how the game has been treated by game journalists, albeit there's a lot of reason for people to be upset. But I think that the way they're getting crushed is a mistake. Again, we will talk about that more in depth next week. It's a full segment.
We both have a lot of thoughts on this as well. I'm almost 20 hours into it. Trust me, I've got plenty of experience with it.
Right.
But yeah, a lot to talk about.
We could not mention that in this episode, having it just been out. So we will talk about it. So stay tuned for that.
We will.
Right. Back to the
real. Real quick. We mentioned Dragon Age, Mass Effect, EA. EA swooped in at the last minute. Take-Two, who of course the guys who own 2K, Rockstar, all of that. Swooped in. They were supposed to buy Codemasters, who specialize in racing games and make the Dirt series, for $750 million. EA came in at the last minute for a just over $1 billion deal and stole that from Take-Two. That's a big deal just because, first off, EA is struggling, but they still had $1 billion. But also,
it could make or break them, though, Ray. That could really hurt them if they don't do well with it.
I really think that this move is solely to save Need for Speed, which has been a franchise that has been floundering for years. You're taking one of the biggest racing game developers and acquiring them, and I would imagine that's why you acquire that studio for $1 billion, is to make that franchise what it once was once again.
Right. Well, at one point, the biggest racing game in the world, but it has not been true in maybe 15 years.
I would say at least 10 for sure. I mean, the last couple were terrible. I gave the last, not the last one, the one before it. I can't even remember. I gave it a 4 out of 10 because of the slot machine mechanics.
Forza kind of took over that space for a while. But
Forza right now is the premier racing game, hands down. Also because Sony basically gave up on Gran Turismo. We got a half a Gran Turismo game in the PS4 generation.
Yeah.
We're finally getting GT7 and PS5 sometime.
Yeah. Which was that game was a pioneer game too, a long time ago, 20 years ago maybe.
Yeah, that too. That was the first few were the top of the racing cred, but not anymore. Very briefly, also speaking of Sony, Funimation. Sony Funimation has acquired Crunchyroll from AT&T for $1.2 billion. So that if you have HBO Max, that button is going to be going away soon on your HBO Max. If you're a big anime fan, you're going to have to go to Sony's going to be acquiring that. How they're going to get it to you? Probably apps on the PS5 and other ways, and probably
another PS5 exclusive that will end up killing them in the long run. That's what I think. I think all their exclusives are going to be their undoing. Unfortunately,
yeah. I don't think there's enough. I could be wrong. I mean, I don't know. But as somebody who's been in a few anime, I've actually been in a few anime now as background voices. I don't think there's going to be enough of an audience there to remake a $1.2 billion.
Maybe. You know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because at some point, the value on all the things they own might be worth more than the PlayStation. And that when that happens, you know, if Crunchyroll and even their game exclusives are worth more than the system, like that, suddenly it's like, hey, so Microsoft, do you want to have God of War and Uncharted and Ghost of Tsushima and Last of Us 2 and all these games that people love on your system? Yes, for $1.7 billion. Sold. Okay, go ahead. It'd probably be more like 20 billion, but that's okay.
It'd be that it's a possibility. Speaking of exclusives, Nintendo did a thing today. Their last indie showcase of the year. Nintendo was like, you guys can spend all that money to get in the Game Awards. We're just going to keep doing our own thing on YouTube and get probably just as many views.
Right. And they did.
But maybe not just many views. There was a lot of folks who watched the Game Awards, but you get the point.
Nintendo's got its audience. Yeah.
Nintendo has its audience, and it knows how to control its message. 3 big announcements today. Let me make sure I get the name of this right. From the guys who made a Shovel Knight, which was a terrific game, Yacht Club Games. Let's see, a Cyber Shadow. That's the name of the game. Is basically a spiritual love letter to the Ninja Gaiden games of the NES era.
Exciting.
That is coming out to the Switch in January. Looks phenomenal, absolutely terrific. And then also, Nintendo swooped in and got the console exclusives, timed exclusives elite right now. A big one, Among Us, which is the big popular social game right now, which is social deduction. It's basically a glorified version of, I was talking with our buddy Travis today, basically a glorified version of Clue. It's kind of a whodunit, right? But it's a lot of fun. $5 right now, you can get that on the Switch. And Super Meat Boy Forever on the 23rd, console exclusive. This is a huge beloved platform franchise. For Nintendo to get that first on the Switch is a big deal.
I'm no longer Meat Boy because I have to be. I'm Meat Boy because I choose to be.
Yeah. Yeah, so
It had to
Nintendo
be
came out
said.
with those 3 announcements today, so a big deal from them. That we finally got through the geek section.
Hour and 45 minutes. We said it was going to take a long time today.
We said it was
now
gonna
we have
take a long
15
time.
minutes to do sports.
Yeah, we're going to try and run through this.
Listen, to be fair, there's some actually pretty cool sports stuff this week.
Yes. The first thing, the NBA preseason kicked off.
Yes.
Teams, it's hard to judge teams. The Knicks don't look half bad, but let's be real, they're going to be the Knicks. And that's, they're one of those teams that look good in the preseason and then of course
Look, obviously Lakers the favorite to repeat. Obviously Golden State's coming back to form, so we'll see what happens there.
And Brooklyn now with Durant.
Yes.
Durant is healthy. Like
Sixers
obviously,
with Doc Rivers. There's a lot of cool storylines developing. It is preseason and it is still the pandemic. So
and I believe next week I believe is the tip off.
Yeah,
for
I think it's Christmas Day, right?
I think it was a couple days before.
That's great. Hey, listen,
but they'll have a big slate on Christmas.
I want to say this as a sports person. I want to congratulate the NBA for successful return to play after the last season, and doing it right. There's still social distancing. NBA and the NHL have really championed sports in this time period. They still have not. It all received the credit they deserve, and I'm trying to give it to them now. The NBA, excellent job getting back for your fans, getting back for sport, and for giving us something else to watch on TV besides mediocre football in the NFC East.
Yes, well, speaking of the NFC East, that brings us to the NFL. And actually, this is a fun stat. We're going to kick off with the NFC East.
Yeah, this is a weird one. This is a weird-ass stat. This is one of those stats, Ray, that if you went back to, like, week 2 and said, well, this happened, you'd be like, huh.
Yeah. But to Lee's credit, Lee said that the NFC East was going to play spoiler. And so far, every one of us have pretty much played spoiler to somebody.
Ruined someone's
Giants beat the Seahawks. The Eagles beat the Saints this week. Obviously, the Giants lost to the Cardinals, which hurts them. Washington beat Pittsburgh and San Francisco to take over the division lead.
Strong lead now with 5 wins.
Yeah, well, 6. Washington 6-7.
A stranglehold 6-game winning.
They could finish 9-7, and right now with that defense, led by probably defensive rookie of the year Chase Young and offense and comeback player of the year Alex Smith. Washington suddenly, 3-2 in their last 5 has put them squarely above the Giants in the NFC East.
Just to simplify it for everybody, this is basically the NFC East. If the Washington football team wins 2 of their last 3 games, they pretty much have won the division.
They win the division,
right? Yes. If they go 1-3, or I'm sorry, if they go 1-2, and the Eagles go 3-0, or the Giants go 3-0. Now, the Eagles have the slight advantage because of the tie and because we're playing Washington themselves.
Right.
The Giants or the Eagles could swoop in. The Cowboys would have to hope that everyone goes 0-3.
Right.
And they win all their
including the
games.
Cowboys do play everybody. They play the Giants, and they play. I do believe they play Washington, the Eagles.
I'm not making fun of it. It's absolutely possible that could happen. So it's going to be a wild finish in the NFC East to see who can get there. And Ray and I have said this before. Everybody's saying, like, I wish they would just get there so we can get knocked out in the first round. That is not the way to approach football. It is very possible one of these teams, if they hit
Washington...
stride,
Washington, let's say Washington wins their next 3 and gets in the playoffs at 9-7, having won 5 or 6 in a row with that and knocking off teams like Pittsburgh and San Fran.
Great belief system. They've beat the best team in the league. This isn't any given Sunday moment. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying don't be one of those fans. I just can't
Don't underestimate them.
We've seen plenty of wild card teams win the Super Bowl, Ray especially. All right.
Yes.
Me too, actually. Now I'm thinking about it. All right. I've seen the teams with they have no chance. That's not how football works. Obviously, if these were best of 7 series, absolutely no way. Okay. Right. But no, it's going to be interesting to see what happens here in the NFL. Again, with the NFL, great game, Monday Night Football between the Browns and the Ravens.
Absolute shootout, 47-42 was the final.
I always want to applaud
Came down
good
to
football.
last possession.
Yeah, I always want to applaud good football. It's always great when there's a good game on. But other than that, the NFC East, as predicted, just screwing everyone else over, including each other.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's
they
a
knocked the
Northeast
Saints.
thing
The
and
Eagles.
Dallas.
The Eagles knocked the Saints out of the 1 seed this week. The Washington helped knock Pittsburgh out of the 1 seed in the AFC,
Right.
along with their loss to Buffalo. Buffalo looks really good right now in the AFC.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna say it right now, depending on how the matchups go. Buffalo versus Kansas City for the AFC Championship.
And
I'm
I will
saying
say
it right
this,
now.
and I haven't been able to do this in several years in the NFL. I cannot tell you who's going to be in the Super Bowl this year. I can't tell you with any confidence. A lot of teams could make it. The Pats not being the Pats really changes it because you got a 50% chance of them being in the Super Bowl prior to this year every year. Right. So I don't know who's going to make it. It's going to be a really interesting postseason and probably a very enjoyable one in the NFL.
You've got to the AFC in particular between Pittsburgh, Tennessee, Cleveland, even Miami's playing. They're 8-5.
Right. You just don't know.
Like you just don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. Miami almost beat Kansas City, but Kansas City won by 6. I also really quick the stat that I was talking about in the last 4 weeks.
We didn't even say it.
The last 4 weeks. The NFC East has the best record in football. They're 9-6 combined as a division.
That's amazing.
They are the best division in football the last 4 weeks. They again upsets by the Eagles and the Giants and Washington have really helped that stat and really thrown a wrench into the playoff picture that no one saw coming 4 weeks ago.
In the last 4 weeks, the NFC East has a better record than any team in the NFC East.
Yes,
which is
exactly.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Also got to quickly touch just because me and the show. Jalen Hurts starting for the Philadelphia Eagles, winning against the New Orleans Saints. Played a very good game. The thing that I noticed about that game was not just Jalen Hurts, who rushed for over 100 yards. He's only the second quarterback to do that in his debut, the other one being Lamar Jackson. The big thing about the Eagles was that the offense all were firing and playing well, catching balls. Also another thing about Jalen Hurts was a big stark contrast to Carson Wentz. Was not afraid to throw the ball away when he was under pressure or he was out of the pocket. Like he picked his plays wisely, whereas Carson Wentz tends to fight that and tries to make something happen all the time, which is not a bad thing in a quarterback, just not working for the Eagles this year. So, very impressive debut by Jalen Hurts. Of course, the trade rumors have already started in Philadelphia for Carson Wentz. They're not going to trade Carson Wentz. It's a stupid thing to say. They put way too much money into him. Also, it is not bad to have Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts as your backup. If we've learned anything, Eagles fans should know who your backup is quite important. So, it's just good to see the Eagles offense firing. Defense played okay. We missed a 22-yard field goal, which I won't want to talk about. But the idea being is that there's a honeymoon phase going on here. It's very interesting to watch. We'll see where this goes. I think Carson Wentz has been a gentleman about all this. I am not anti-Carson Wentz. I just don't. I have a tough time with Eagles fans when they rip him apart. He's not playing his best by far, but neither is the Eagles offense. Right. So it's just one of those things of like I'm not done with Carson Wentz yet. In my mind, I'm happy he's still on the team. And we'll see where the Eagles go from here. But, very interesting kind of final run here now in the NFL. It's going to be a fun finish all around.
Yes. Other things, it looks like the Seahawks lost last week, lost to the Giants, woke them up a little bit.
Right.
They dismantled the Jets. I mean, the Jets are terrible, and I'm confident now they are going to go 0-16. I was pretty confident a couple of weeks ago, but now they lost 40-3.
Right.
That offense is disgusting. The defense doesn't care. They traded away all their best pieces. Obviously, Gase is a lame duck. They are going to clean house completely after this season, bring in a new coach, try and get the Trevor Lawrence with the number 1 pick. I feel bad that Darnold really probably never got a fair shake there.
He will somewhere else. I think he will. I think he's going to go somewhere else and succeed.
I think he'll bounce back. I think he'll get like an Andy Dalton thing. He'll go back somebody up, and he'll probably, again, in the NFL, you're one play away from starting. So you don't know what's going to happen. But the Seahawks chasing the NFC West really tightening up. San Francisco falling off after the loss to Washington, but Arizona, Seattle, and I almost called them St. Louis, and the Los Angeles Rams all win this week. The Rams had the tiebreaker, so they are ahead there.
It's called
the Packers clinched.
The Rams.
The Packers clinched another division title, in what is really turning into a really recent years has just they have no competition there. The Vikings, Bears, and Lions are all terrible. Tampa Bay bounced back with a win. So you're gonna see them and the Saints come out of the South. But yeah, really interesting all around. The Raiders are kind of falling off as well. The Patriots falling off as well as they got demolished by the Rams, as I mentioned on Thursday Night Football. And Tennessee absolutely destroyed Jacksonville. Jacksonville will have the number 2 pick. That's pretty much locked up with only 1 win, having not won since week 1. But football seasons, it's going to come to an interesting finish these last 3 weeks. We cannot wait. Last sports story of the day.
Big one.
Speaking of the Washington football team, in a way, a team that let go of their logo. Cleveland, in baseball, the Cleveland Indians are no longer going to be the Indians. They said that at some point this week, potentially, they're going to announce a new logo. I did an informal poll, by the way, on Twitter, and most people liked my idea of calling them the Cleveland Rocks.
It's a good name.
Got a lot of votes. Obviously, it writes itself. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's down the street. Play on the song Cleveland Rocks. I don't know. You have Drew Carey be your mascot. But, so Chief Wahoo is being retired. The Indian name is being retired after 105 years. It makes sense. It's time.
Yeah, right. You had said that.
Not proper.
Yeah, you had said when the Washington retired the Redskins that they probably started putting this in motion. It's because they clearly had a plan. They did it smart. They didn't tell anybody they were doing it, so nobody tried to screw with their copyright infringement. Mm-hmm. One of our loyal listeners, Dan Saunders, suggested that if they wanted to stay with that theme, they could change the name to the Cleveland Tribe.
That was a good name too.
Yeah, and that would work. I think they're just going to get away from it. Like, I think that you're right. I just hope we don't get something like the Cleveland baseball team. I thought it would be funny if they named themselves the Cleveland football team.
Yes.
that plays baseball. But we'll have next episode, or by the time this airs, we might actually know the new name. Cleveland Rocks is a great name. I think that's brilliant. You're right. It writes itself. It should be picked. Cleveland Tribe would be an appropriate transition from Indians if they wanted to stay there. We'll see what or the Cleveland Union. I said that one too because the Blue Jackets in Columbus is a stupid name, and someone should have been called the Union. That would have been a cool name.
And also, somebody also mentioned, and this is true, there used to be a team in baseball called the St. Louis Browns.
Right.
Possibly bring the Browns back, and then you have the Cleveland Browns of baseball and football.
Yeah, that's not going to
I don't think that's going to happen either.
That'd be really dumb.
But it was an interesting idea, and it does harken back to baseball, some far gone baseball history.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. But no, this is a thing that obviously they're you can call them indigenous, you can call them Native Americans, but they are
First
not
Nation.
Indians.
Yeah.
First Nation. Indians are people from India, and so it's never been a proper name, and so it's finally being fixed.
Right.
So that brings us now to our question of the week.
Question of the week. It's time for the question of the week. Ray doesn't like it when I do the song that is about the question of the week. Bum, 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 bum.
So this one I came up with, so
Just
bear
doesn't
with
even
me.
acknowledge it alone.
We're against the clock, Lee. I'm watching the timer.
I'm watching
We're
the
trying to
clock.
keep it under 2
We're
hours.
fine. We're gonna hit 2 hours on the mark. If you're still listening to this episode, God bless you.
We really appreciate
We
it.
really
Yeah,
do.
Thank you.
You're the best.
So mixing sports, I mean, more so than ever before, mixing sports and video games. I kind of thought of this. You know, there was a Mega Man soccer game that I wish they would remake. Mario has had baseball, tennis, strikers,
the Olympics,
soccer. Yeah, the Olympics with
Sonic as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so our thought real quick for the quest franchise question of the week: what game franchise deserves to have its own sports title? Lee, do you want to kick us off?
No. I actually think this is obvious. This is a game / geek / comic property. Mm-hmm. It makes way too much sense. It is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It makes way too much sense. I love to play as all of those guys, even the villains. It would be fun. It would be it's same kind of level as Mario and Sonic. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'm not gonna get. Sometimes I get 5 or 6, and I do have other ones in my head, but this one's a clear winner for me. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, I mean that's really a good one. It's obviously
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or they're the world's most fearsome fighting team. They play hockey too.
There's a few different theme songs.
It's in the theme song. Fearsome fighting team of hockey. Casey Jones. It works itself.
That makes perfect sense. Actually, that makes perfect sense.
Right. Now, and can you imagine if the Ninja Turtles took on the Mighty Ducks?
Yeah.
I mean, that would be awesome too.
That would be great.
Right?
I mean, there was Ace Duck. That is a mutant. There is a duck.
Right. I'm telling you,
mutant duck
this one's
there.
too obvious. It's too obvious. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja.
Yeah.
It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. That's TMNT. Teenage Mutant Turtles.
Yeah, I mean, this for me, this was actually a harder question. I can't believe I came up with this question. It was very hard for me, actually.
Heroes in the Half Shell. Turtle Power.
I was gonna say maybe The Last of Us should get a sports game. You could do
God.
archery.
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
joking.
great. It'd be like watching the owners' meetings. Right? Yeah. You want to know how Major League Baseball makes decisions?
Oh God, yeah, no, but I mean, for me, it's
no. Wait a minute here. Baseball literally had a guy come out and give 10 people on his own team COVID. It is The Last of Us.
That is.
Come on.
There it is, The Last of Us Baseball League.
Which Dodger survives?
Oh goodness, yeah. I mean, it's a terrible pandemic virus that made the world stand still.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Actually, I kind of look at that. Just trying to be an ass, and I
Yeah.
actually
And
made a really
Magic
good
Johnson
suggestion.
somehow wins.
Yeah.
with all of his health ailments, he survives.
Oh God. Yeah. It's yeah.
I don't want to get into that, but that's.
Yeah. Oh man, this was actually super hard because much like the Turtles, there's been also I think of things like the X-Men. I thought
okay, so that's funny. I thought of that too, right? Because that was
Yeah.
the other one I thought of, but Turtles
Yeah.
was kind of way ahead of it though. In my mind.
No, I think the Turtles for sure more as a team-based sport because I'm thinking about I think about how Mega Man Soccer worked, right? But I think also another big one would be Pokemon. I think Pokemon as a football team or as a soccer team.
Baseball. Baseball.
Machamp has to be the receiver because he's all hands.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's a lot of pass interference calls though. Offensive pass interference.
A lot of pass interference call. Hitmonlee is your kicker.
Right.
Right.
Who's your quarterback? Mahomes.
Mahomes. There you go. Right. It comes full circle. We do it
Yeah.
all the time.
I don't know
So
if I
actually,
could deal with
I'm going to say
another
Pokemon. A Pokemon deserves its own true sports games. And I think football. Would
Here's
actually
the
be a lot
deal:
of fun.
if you do a Pokemon
American
sports game, you got to get rid of another Pokemon game because there's just too much. Right.
Well, you know what? There's a lot of these cruddy mobile games, not Pokemon Go, but like Pokemon Smile and Pokemon
You got to
Cafe,
get if you make a new
like-
Pokemon game, you should have to get rid of an old one.
I
right?
think that's fair.
All right, and I'm gonna let Snap survive in my.
Ooh, you
know,
save Snap.
I save Snap because a lot of people like that game, and I can see why people want to play
Getting
that
a
game.
sequel.
That's what I'm
Getting a
saying.
sequel finally.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But if in my eradication, Snap survives.
I would say Mystery Dungeon goes. I think that's unnecessary.
That's fine
That's
by
like
me. Yeah.
it's like an RPG within an RPG, and it's just
Right.
like it's you get turned into a Pikachu. It just seems it's just no.
So
it's weird.
last note on this: would you want to see a Mortal Kombat sports game?
That could be fun.
That would be interesting
crazy
to see someone
Yeah.
like rip someone's spine out on the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Yes.
Dallas wins.
Yeah.
Fatality.
Again, Goro is your receiver probably, right? Because he's got four hands.
He's my linebacker. That guy's a linebacker.
Linebacker. Yeah,
Him
that
and
makes
Shiva
sense.
in the line.
Yeah, there's your
Right.
linebacker core. Yeah, or
Right.
maybe your safeties.
But we want to know what you think.
you think. Yeah.
So comment below. Let us know which. We'll just open it up. Any geek property would make a great sports game. Obviously, games lend themselves to that.
Yes.
I think that's some great picks. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I think X-Men is a runner-up. Pokemon absolutely makes sense. But these are. I would love to play a Turtles sports game. That would be really fun.
Yeah.
But again, let us know what you think. Comment below. Visit us on geekswholiksports.com. Check us out, Lee at Geeks Who Like Sports, or Ray at Geeks Who Like Sports, or Facebook Geeks Who Like Sports. Just search Geeks Who Like Sports. You'll find us somewhere. But if you're listening this late in the episode, you already know that. Unless you're a first-time listener, which we're lovely to have you here today. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Lee. That's Ray. Ray's actually going to close it, but I needed to find a way to stop talking. Ray.
So would Splinter be the goalie? Because I would put Raph and Casey Jones on defense. Right, and then I would probably have Leo at center, and then Don and Mikey are the wingers.
Right, I'm thinking.
So
here.
would you have Splinter in net?
I don't know. Splinter seems more like a really good center to me.
Would you put Leo in net?
I might. That makes a lot more sense, though. He's responsible.
Or Donnie, because he's already a good stick handle. He's got the paddle.
No, Donnie's a defenseman. Donnie seems like a defenseman to me.
See, because I think Raph's a hard hitter.
I know.
As a defenseman.
Listen,
along with
I think the cool part is any of these guys could play any of those positions.
Yeah, they're kind of interchangeable in that way, but they also bring.
Okay. You said Splinter. You did say Splinter. I'm sorry. I was thinking Shredder. So Splinter. Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he wouldn't be the strongest player on your team, but.
So there you go. Anyway, let us know what you think below. Answer the question. As Lee said, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, email us
the
regularly
internet.
at Geeks Who Like Sports. Yes, we are there. Just you can Google us. You'll find us somewhere. Or geekswholikesport.com.
Right.
But thank you all for...
It's a household name.
Yes. Thank you all for listening, especially if you stuck the whole way through. Our longest episode yet. Easily. We appreciate it, though.
It wasn't our fault. Thanks, Disney.
No, it's Disney's fault. Yeah. Thanks, Disney.
And thanks, Last of Us 2, for ruining that was a long segment.
Yeah. Well, that was that's partially my fault for going off on a rant.
No. People love your rants, Ray. They love you.
Well, I appreciate it.
They need the Ray rants.
Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't rant about the Giants this week because they're just so disappointing.
You will be. You will be.
Trust me, you'll get a Giants rant in the last couple weeks, folks. Don't worry. Thank you all for tuning in, though. Thank you all for listening. We really appreciate it, as always. For Lee, I am Ray. We will see you next week with Geeks Who Like Sports episode 88. But this is it for 87. Next week, Mandalorian season finale. Lots of stuff to look forward to.
Yes.
Plus a deep dive on Cyberpunk.
Yes.
But until then, thank you all for listening or watching. We'll see you all next week. Have a good night, everybody.